All right, everybody, welcome back to the show.
Welcome back.
We appreciate everybody tuning back in. We appreciate Mr. Schuyler for his time last week.
Oh, yeah.
We feel like it was one of our better episodes that we've had to date. Kind of dialed the conversation in, talked about current events, talked about and applied a lot of those current events to our guests, and had a lot of favorable and friendly discourse, as well as proposed ideas, solutions, that sort of stuff. And then also talked about some of the training behind what police officers get too, which I felt like was very beneficial to the conversation and absent of many people's opinions and awareness, quite frankly.
Right. Yeah, I agree. It was nice to have that perspective. You know what I mean? Like, of course you can formulate your own opinions and everything, but you can't really, you know what I mean? You can't really have a solid argument on a matter without knowing all sides of it, in my opinion. So it was nice to have that perspective.
For sure. So we want to start things today off with a little bit of a current events talk once again. So there's a lot of good news happening out there, such as the Blues AHL affiliate in Salem, Massachusetts, or I believe it's Springfield, Massachusetts, actually.
Yeah.
Just won their Eastern Conference championship.
I didn't see that. Congrats, boys.
So that's the feeder system for the St. Louis Blues. So that's looking promising. And you have to think about the year that we just had and with the youth movement that's going on as well that we've talked about on the show here. So it's looking very positive and bright for the Blues in the future.
Hell yeah. Yeah, we're gonna bring a cup back. I got a strong feeling.
Hell yeah.
Next
sooner rather
five
than later.
seasons. Right.
For sure. We also have to, before we get too far into the show, talk about them Cardinals again.
Oh, dude.
As well. They've continued to do very well, be very competitive, if not first in the Central constantly. Goldschmidt still on his tear.
The dude's not a man.
I know.
He's Superman.
The youth movement,
he's not a
too.
human.
We got the youth movement going on there as well, with people like Donovan and Gorman.
Yeah, I was going to say Donovan, man.
Are looking excellent. Yepes, yep, for sure. Some young pitchers, too. Turning it around for the Cardinals.
Michaelis, what about that game the other night?
Michaelis, you have to mention the near no-no for Michaelis, just 1 out away the other night.
That was heartbreaking, man.
And that was a play that Bader we've seen make many times. So
yeah,
in the past,
we were kind of talking about that before we jumped on here. I was kind of just like, I felt like he could.
You know, Bader, he Gold Glove, guy out there in center field. A play he probably could have made, but to be honest with you, most
guard.
Yeah, for sure.
It was a misposition, is what it was. But
for sure.
But yeah, anyway.
Speaking of mispositions, the Lance Lynn video that you shared in our group chat the other day.
Oh, dude.
About the fight that they had. Lance Lynn, old Cardinal, now pitcher for the White Sox, which is my second favorite baseball team.
Right.
Coincidentally, he had a bit of a dispute with the third base or first base coach.
Third base coach.
Yeah,
so basically, the rundown of the video is, I guess the third base coach didn't like his body language after giving up some runs while he was having an outing, which this is Lance Lynn's first game coming back after being on the injured list. So, you know, obviously he's got some kinks to work out. That's baseball. But he got frustrated. And I guess the third base coach approached him and said, hey, man, your team feels like, that's your body language is coming at the team. Yeah. You know what I mean? And he's like, no, I'm fucking mad because I'm missing fucking pitches, dude. Like, get the fuck away from me. You know what I mean?
For sure.
And what was even so much better about that was after the show, the press interviewed him about the argument that he had with the coach. And come to find out, the coach is what do they call that? A guy that only eats fish. What's that called?
Presbyterian.
Yep. He's that. He's like, well, that doesn't make sense because I'm that.
Yeah.
I thought that was funny.
Yeah, that was some good shit for sure. We also must talk about some of the more political ongoings as well. Before we get right back into that, I want to also shout out real quickly, rest in peace, Tim Sale, one of the best comic book artists that's ever lived, in my opinion.
Devastating to the Batman world for sure.
Yeah, he definitely had a pulse on kind of that, pop art, if you will, stylings of, not to say he was Andy Warhol or anything like that, but some of those color palettes very similar in artwork in many respects.
Agreed.
And he was 66, passed, and he's done some of the most iconic work for DC and even Marvel as well. He's done Daredevil runs, he's done Spider-Man, he's done Hulk, Captain America.
Have they released any information on, obviously I don't cause of death or anything like that?
I know he was battling a terminal illness. I think it was cancer for a while.
Okay.
So I did not look into, that just happened right before we started the show, and I haven't read the details yet, but
right.
I think it's safe to assume.
That. Right.
Tim Sale specifically, if you've seen the new Batman movie with Robert Pattinson, the Long Halloween storyline that Tim Sale did with Jeff Loeb, and he almost exclusively did most of his work with Jeff Loeb as a writer, and Jeff Loeb's a big TV producer and stuff now. He kind of started with a lot of the Marvel universe in the 90s, like when they had the kids cartoons on and stuff.
Right.
But he was a huge consultant with that sort of thing. But Jeff Loeb is an above average comic book writer. He's like, fanboys like to shit on him, but I've liked just about everything I've ever read from him.
Right.
But Jeff Loeb and Tim Sale have done some phenomenal work together, The Long Halloween being one of those. And like I said, it was the primary source material plus Batman Ego, which was not them, but Batman Ego also were the two comic book facets that were the inspiration for the new Batman movies. So
hats off.
So Tim Sale, his iconic artwork will live on, right, and he will not be forgotten for sure. But got to pay homage to the guy for sure. So our lovely Lauren Bobart,
oh God,
of Colorado.
Oh, I can't wait to talk about
Have you seen the latest with her? Yeah. She gave a speech and talked about if Jesus had an AR-15, he wouldn't have been crucified.
Pretty much along the lines, that's what she said. Yeah, that's what she was insinuating.
So
totally.
Now this is somebody who runs and panders and caters to evangelicals in particular.
Right.
She runs as one or whatever the case is.
Right.
I think it's funny because if you believe in any Christian beliefs, you understand that Jesus willfully gave his life for the sins and lives of others. So
they don't even know what they're saying.
To imply that he wouldn't have been crucified if he had his own AR-15, the government had killed him, which the government did kill him, but guns weren't even around at the time. So
and people just clap and roar. You know what I mean?
And there was some it was definitely in the minority of the video that I saw, but there were people that there was some audible gas, but then there was people that thought it was funny. And I mean, I'm not even Christian, and it's just ridiculous and absurd.
It's a circus, honestly.
You people need to see that these folks are wolves in sheep's clothing, to put it very lightly. They are literally trying to exploit you and your beliefs.
Well, they're making a mockery out of our government, out of what democracy is.
They're making a mockery out of the people's intelligence.
Right, and people are playing into it. You know what I mean? It's just sad. It's sad.
While on the topic of political ongoings and maneuverings, we have to talk about the January 6th hearings that are going. So whenever we were recording last week was day one of the hearings. So I kind of want to hit on some of the bullet points of that. But I think it's important to set some context first. So Fox News in particular refused to cover the hearings. So they did not air the hearings, while every other major news network as well as 24-hour news networks did air the hearings of the first night during network
international news network too.
Yes. And they had over 20 million viewers, which is basically Sunday night football ratings.
Right.
As well. So there was a lot of people tuned in.
C-SPAN's ever had that kind of viewership ever in its entire live.
Yeah. So some of the heavy hitters on day one, it's not necessarily going to be in order. I'm going to kind of spit off some stuff pretty noticeable, but Attorney Bill Barr was there. He, obviously said that the election fraud claims were BS. Ivanka, Trump's own daughter, said she respected Attorney Barr and agreed with his findings and accepted them. And so that put a strain between Ivanka and Trump, her dad.
Right. And because she was part of the inner circle,
Oh, absolutely.
Her and her husband.
Yeah. Well, Trump basically wants to fuck her. his own daughter.
Oh, dude,
and he's made comments to that effect.
Some of those pictures of them from when she was a teenager and
yeah,
stuff.
very
like
unsettling.
Oh my God, dude.
Yeah, definitely. As a father, it's very disturbing to see.
Right.
So,
Well, you
there's
know,
nothing
he was
natural
riding
going on
first
there.
class on the Epstein Express, bud. So.
Oh, without question. And, you know, I guess you can finally say that she screwed her dad.
Got him.
So that should have made his little dreams all come true. But he took to, I guess, social Truth Social. I guess is what platform he's on.
It's tanking.
And, oh yeah, they had a failed launch more than once. They didn't have their shit together, but that's a tangent for another time. Miley also said that Pence had violated the chain of command, but this was like in support of him, one of the generals that was advisor of the cabinet. But he had said essentially that he had never seen Pence like this, which this is a guy of a personality of a fucking cabbage, mind you. And he was, quote, animated.
Oh, wow.
So to think of Pence in that way.
Emotions.
Wild. Yes. Apparently he was like directing traffic, like having to tell people what to do eventually because like the administrative facets of the job had been broken down so much and Trump was too busy locked up in his office watching and rewinding live television with the riots and the Capitol Police being assaulted and everything else. And he was finding it funny, laughing out loud, replaying stuff over and over. So this is, you know, this upstanding Christ-like deity.
Right.
What's new, right?
Yeah. The Holy Tangerine.
So, of course, they showed some footage of the rioters that were actually directly quoting Trump's tweets at the riots, you know, at the foothill of the Capitol as they were storming it. So I don't think that there's any debate about them being incited and goaded by Trump.
I mean, he said in the little rally that he had right before it all happened, we're going to march down there right to their door and do what we have to do. And you know what I mean? So, I mean, there you go.
Right.
Nail in the coffin.
Another kind of thing that folks are going on about Liz Cheney and that she's some type of hero because she's Republican. And Liz Cheney has mostly, I don't want to say mostly, but she's not uncommonly butted heads with Trump while he was in office. And she also took stands against him on the occasion.
Right.
So what she's doing in these hearings is literally her job.
Right,
and that is to uphold her constitutional obligations as a person in her elected position that she is. And she's also supposed to advocate on behalf of the American people and her constituents. So
right.
I'm not going to paint her out like some angel or savior because she's like doing the job.
Right. She's
doing what she should be.
Doing what she's paid to do.
Matters like this, matters of insurrection, things of that ilk should be a bipartisan, you know, retort, if you will.
Right.
But anywho, Liz Cheney busting Trump's balls and helping add to the evidence against him. They also had Capital Officer Edwards there, and she gave a firsthand account of what was going on the ground level and the officers being attacked, the panic that overcame them, the faculties that they did or didn't have to handle that type of volume, that traffic, and the violence that they were being met with. All things of that ilk. Very honestly, it was very sobering to hear, even though, you know, we've seen the footage, we've heard stories, but literally from an officer, and knowing that officers did die on that day as well made it, you know, even more harrowing, if you will, to hear. And then Nick Quested, which is a documentarian that was following the Proud Boys, he gave much footage that is being used throughout this ordeal, and provided some direct quotes. Like they asked him, I guess procedurally, just kind of like time, place, manner, trying to get their facts straight. They asked him, I guess at some point, like, what did you do before the riots? He was like, oh, we got tacos. Like it was like some, like, oh, it's, you know, just getting some tacos.
We
it's
swung
just
by
not,
and
I
got
mean,
some tacos.
I guess racists has got to eat lunch too.
Yeah. Gotta keep your energy up for your insurrections.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's kind of some of the highlights of day one. Day two, a lot of this was accounts and descriptions of essentially Trump's advisors telling him that the election was lost. And essentially there was some claims of, you know, his own folks resigning and things of that ilk if he didn't accept the election's results and move forward. And this is me paraphrasing, but with like a peaceful transition and following the rituals and the traditions of our government for hundreds of years at this point. Trump was very defiant and continued to listen to Rudy Giuliani because he said and fed to Trump's ego. It was said that Rudy Giuliani was very inebriated the night of the election.
Yeah.
And was bursting into the president's office, dictating essentially that he go in and say it's time to stop the count because, they still had all the absentee ballots to count and the mail-in ballots and all that stuff.
Which further...
While Trump was leading in the polls temporarily.
Right.
He advised Trump to stop the count. So you literally are impeding the democratic process.
Right, yeah. I mean, I don't know how you don't come out with any outcome other than... You know what I mean?
Right.
I don't know, man. This whole shit is just ridiculous.
They spoke to one of Trump's campaign advisors, Jason Miller, who also was just flat out, said Giuliani was drunk. I mean, many people did.
Right.
Bill Stephen, which was Trump's campaign manager, he also called Giuliani's team, referred to his team as the normal team that was advising Trump. So therefore, by de facto, ergo, Giuliani's team is not the normal team. Rooted in reality. They had a Fox editor on, Chris Stewart, I think was his name. He called Arizona for Biden early. And so Fox actually was the first program, and that's where I saw it, because I was watching Fox to see kind of what they were saying as to what was going on.
Right.
He actually said that Arizona was won by Biden earlier than anybody else did.
So
motherfucker was fired by Fox for doing that, because Fox wanted to control the narrative. People like Sean Hannity was one of Trump's closest advisors, transparently and not so much at times. Essentially, yeah. His propaganda czar, for sure. And then they also had brought back in some Bill Barr accounts again, talking of Trump's Giuliani team specifically, and he said that they were selling the public, quote, bullshit claims about the Dominion machines, and then, just kind of discrediting everything that Trump essentially was trying to do to discredit the election.
Right.
And the information that they're receiving. And then day 3, that just started today, so we don't have a lot of information on that. I know that they were speaking to Greg Jacob, which was Pence's advisor, and he was with Pence when Pence had to go into hiding at the Capitol. So he has some stories. And then I also know that they're speaking to Judge Ludig, who served for Reagan and George H.W. Bush, but he also was often a legal advisor for Pence in particular. And a direct quote from him that I saw before I stopped watching what I saw today was that Trump or his successor may succeed in 2024 will essentially succeed where they failed in 2020. And he speaks those words. He doesn't speak those words lightly. So essentially, his concern, the reason that he came forward for testifying at these hearings and so on and so forth, was that he was very concerned about what was going to happen in 2024's election.
I think we all are.
Well, that's the whole purpose of these hearings, is everybody needs to be called out for what they did.
Right.
Again, we largely know it, but we're hearing procedurally kind of the death by 1,000 cuts, like what Trump did, how many times he was told not to do it, how many times he was advised otherwise. I mean, it's nice to see, too, that a lot of these cogs in Trump's machine did have some bit of essence or soul to them. But, again, it was behind closed doors. Not a lot of it was public. That kind of updates kind of the bullet points on the whole investigation into January 6th. We, of course, did our very first relaunch pilot episode. We did a deep dive on January 6th. You can go back and revisit that as well if you want to hear more on that. But today we've got Egon Casanova, Derek. So Derek is going around on the independent scene right now as a manager for a professional wrestler, String Bean, who we will discuss as well with Derek. But Derek himself is Dr. Egon Casanova. So I think he's kind of got an evil doctor thing going on, but we're going to hit it heavy with Mr. Derek. And so please welcome Derek to the show with the rest of us. we've got Mr. Derek Hankins with us, a.k.a. Egon Casanova. How you doing today, sir?
Oh, I'm doing absolutely fine today, gentlemen. Thank you for asking.
We appreciate having you on the show,
It
man.
really is a pleasure. It's really a pleasure.
I met you at a chance encounter at a party one time, so
Yes.
we cut it up about some music and some pro wrestling, and then it was revealed to me that you're a pro wrestling manager. So
Yes.
and I saw a few videos of you taking bumps and stuff inside the ring, so I was like, okay, that's kind of an old school thing that doesn't go on so much anymore as
that's
managers
cool to see.
in wrestling that take bumps.
That's
So,
true.
and I think what I saw you take was like a pedigree or something like that, or a
Oh, a
tiger
tiger
driver.
driver. Mhm.
Yeah.
A spike tiger driver.
Yeah, that's right. So that's not
Holy
a fun
shit.
one to take sometimes. Yeah, they'll fuck you up if you land wrong.
Oh,
So
man, yeah. Dude.
Yeah.
The risks you take
for sure.
being a professional wrestler. Dude, we'll just go right into addressing the elephant in the room. Yeah, people always go like, yeah, it's fake and stuff. I hate that. I hate that term because this is a form of theater. And if
Right.
you approach it this way,
Exactly right.
it's much better. We're not trying to trick you.
Right.
Right.
We are not trying to fool you into believing that this is
Right.
real. Look, what we're doing is the most theatrical version of a fight that you can possibly
for
have.
sure.
We want it to be entertaining. We want to showcase ability.
Right.
We want to showcase endurance
Right.
and especially charisma
Yeah, for sure.
and your ability of improvisation and acting.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That is what lies in the beauty of professional wrestling, ladies and gentlemen. This is why I do what I do. I truly am in love with the art of acting
Yeah.
and film, and this has all of
those
that.
elements.
It has all of that, and we're not trying to trick you into anything. Where this isn't, yeah, it's fake, of course.
Sure.
A guy getting punched 10 times in the face in the corner and he
Right,
comes
right.
out with no bruise.
Right.
But guess what? We don't need it to be real for it to be
Right.
fun. That's why you can have a guy like Rey Mysterio beat someone like The Big Show. You get that cool
Yeah.
story. It's about the stories that we tell.
Right.
And that's the fun of it.
For sure.
Being able to be a part of it.
Working the crowd, man.
Working the crowd.
Yeah.
And giving people entertainment truly is one of the most invigorating
Yeah.
things that you can possibly do. It's so much fun to be able to go to especially these shows. I do a lot of shows that, yeah, they're not grand shows with 15,000 people there. There's 250. And every
those are
single
passionate
person,
fans.
they're very passionate. They go to all the shows and they're able to afford to go to these shows. And a lot of these people wouldn't be able to go to these shows if they weren't that cheap. And
Sure.
it's really cool to be able to give people a thing that they can come to and they can unite on and talk about
Yeah,
and involve
sure.
themselves in. I've had many people come up to me and just say like, man, this is my favorite
Yeah.
in the world. Like, I mean, in a world that exists where you have the internet and you can
Right.
watch anything in Japan, you can watch anything in
Right,
England, Mexico,
Right.
which those are the most prevalent countries.
Regions, yeah.
Yes, other than the United States.
The aspects too of professional wrestling that are very alluring beyond the things that you've mentioned too is on your side of the coin, that is, you know, the instant satisfaction that you get, the instant feedback that you get from the crowd, the adrenaline rush that you get from performing, that sort of thing. It's fed into that. But also you can't discredit the wrestlers, the managers, people that take the bumps, referees even in a lot of instances.
Right.
Got a lot of
The
respect for
physicality
refs.
that actually takes place in the ring. Like, you know, while these moves and things are coordinated,
Yes.
there's still hurt behind them, especially if, you know, you're working snug or whatever the terminology might be.
Yeah.
Or that
Little
strong
inside
style.
baseball, like you put it last week. A little inside baseball. Snug means that you're just getting hit
Yeah.
pretty good. You're not. Whenever I'm going to hit a guy, I want to make enough contact with you
Yeah.
to show you that I'm getting you. It's okay, but I'm not trying to hurt you,
Right.
Right.
but I'm going to hit you.
Yeah. You don't want to see through
I'm
the
still hitting you. Whenever you get picked up by a guy who's 6'6", and you're getting slammed on your back, there's no way you're faking that.
Right. There's no
Guys, you're
faking
getting
that.
slammed.
Right.
Yeah.
And here's the different thing about fighting. I saw you had Brady Kurt on here.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
And man, you want to talk about a fighter. He's
Yeah.
Yeah.
He could smoke me. There's no questions. There's no questions. But here's the different thing than what I do, than what Brady does. Brady doesn't have to get hit. If he doesn't want to, he can dodge. See, there's tons of times where it's just like, hey, you're getting put through the table.
Yeah.
That's what's happening.
You're like, all right, strap up. I'm getting put
You're
through
getting
the table.
kicked. You know how many times you got to get kicked in a match sometimes?
Sure.
Right. Yeah.
Punched,
Absolutely.
slammed.
Yeah.
I've taken an 11-foot drop onto the floor before. You don't fake that.
Right.
You don't prepare for that. It's like the guys in Jackass. It's like Johnny Knoxville said, you just do it.
Right.
Right.
And that's what we have to do. We're stuntmen who are telling you a fighting story.
Right.
Swiss Army knives
Right,
of
for sure.
entertainment.
Absolutely.
And that's why
very prideful in this.
that's my thing with wrestling. Why I respect it so much, because there's just so much more to it than what people think. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? It's not just
Growing like that. People are starting to realize it in
Right.
that light, though. I mean, everyone's a booker in their own mind. Everyone
Sure.
wants to.
Absolutely.
And we all are. And and that's a fun thing about it, too.
Absolutely. Another thing that you mentioned too, Brady, of course, we had a few weeks back, MMA fighter, BJJ practitioner and trainer and teacher, instructor, if you will. Another thing that comes with those MMA fights sometimes, so people spend, $50, $60, $70 on a card on a UFC fight.
right.
Yeah.
And sometimes they don't feel like they got their money's worth.
Yeah.
The thing with working a match is the intent there is to give the people what they want as well. So that's kind of a part of the art.
Yes.
And you've already alluded to this too. So
You're right about that.
you know,
That really is a big part.
there is a time for the knockouts and the 10-second matches or whatever the case is.
Seeing this high level caliber of storytelling that you can see, and seeing wrestling live is a very exciting, very exciting thing that has a deep level of storytelling.
Right.
And in that storytelling, you're given a deeper level than just a fight. It's like you said. I mean, geez, you can have a 60-minute match, and you can have a 10-second match. I've seen both. That's cool.
Absolutely.
That you have the choice of being able to format what you're going to do.
Yeah.
It gives you availability, and it gives people that satisfaction, like you were talking about. That's a very good positive of what we're doing.
You All Elite Wrestling, that's one of the promotions that's out there, kind of the big one that's rivaling, quote unquote, to WWE.
One of the biggest. Yeah,
WWE's the Walmart, the Walt Disney
absolutely.
of wrestling, if you will.
Absolutely. They've been around for like 70 years.
They're gonna be around.
It's how I became aware
Yeah.
of WWE.
So that's a good
of wrestling.
I wanted to talk to you about kind of what your first exposure was to wrestling, what initially got you into it.
I don't remember the exact date, but it had to have been probably the summertime. I would say 2007 or 6, probably 2006. It was whenever it was SmackDown versus Raw 2007 for the PlayStation 2.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
That's what got me in.
Yeah. So those video games.
The video games. There I was. I didn't know much about wrestling. I'd heard of it.
Yeah.
I saw it on TV.
Right.
It kind of scared me a little as a kid. It did. It just kind of like the combat stuff. I was like, okay, I'm a little off put, and I'm just not even going to deal with it.
Yeah.
Right.
And whenever the time was right, then that's whenever it got me. And the video games were so much fun. And the first guy I ever played as, and it was the guy that got me in, was Johnny Nitro.
Yeah.
At the time. Now he wrestles under a dozen different Johnny whatever.
Johnny Elite right now.
Johnny Elite, Johnny Impact, Johnny Mundo. His
Morrison.
gimmick is whenever he goes to a different company, he changes his last name, but his name's always Johnny. Johnny something.
Johnny something, right?
Johnny X. It can be anything.
So John Hennigan,
He's
is
the
his
guy.
name.
He's the guy
First
that got
season
me
of
in.
Tough Enough.
He's the guy that got me in. I saw his look. I saw him in the game, and I was just like, this is cool. That guy looks cool, and I can play as him, and we can do a Hell in a Cell match where I'm just chucking this loser right off. I'm like, this guy sucks. Okay, I'm chucking him off the cell.
Yeah.
And then whenever it really dawned on me, I was like, this is a show.
Yeah.
I can watch this. That's cool. And I checked it out it was my cousin who rented it, my cousin Jordan. He rented it, the video game, and we just dove in after that. That coming Christmas, got some DVDs.
Yeah.
Started watching wrestling. I got a book. I got wrestling books. I started getting the magazines. Yeah. I really only knew that WWE existed, and that just goes to prove how good their marketing is, because I literally thought it was just WWE in the entire world. I am just, at the age of 25, really starting to dive into like outside of America wrestling
like
for the very first time. Yes. Yeah. Really diving into All Japan, classic All Japan. Really, I cannot get enough of that. I cannot get enough of All Japan's women. It's hard for me to remember a lot of their names, though.
The German promotion that was pretty popular.
I don't know much about Germany.
80s and 90s. William Regal
I know
wrestled over there.
Mm-hmm. I've heard a little bit about what he did.
Steve Austin back in the day did a few shots over there.
Oh, wow.
I think he even...
I didn't know that.
Whatever promotion he's affiliated with over there, even Walter was on the back end of
I didn't know
some
that.
of wrestling over there. Yeah, that's why
cool.
he kind of wanted to stick over there for the longest time until he met somebody over here stateside. And now Walter's Gunther, I guess.
Yes.
Poor choice initially on the marketing of the name, because he was named after a German U-boat captain, but that's neither here nor there.
Yes, and that's strange. It was like, okay, that's not a coincidence.
And then it's about the time everything's popping off with like Russia and Ukraine, so it just like came off as a very poor choice.
It wasn't a good time,
right?
One good thing about being a wrestling fan, ladies and gentlemen, is that there is always drama.
Oh yeah,
and
for sure.
Gosh, it's fun.
Yeah,
it's
no
fun.
doubt.
If you're into drama, you got to get into wrestling drama.
Yeah. They used to call them male soaps, I guess, was kind of like the popular thing in the 90s. Was like the big criticism.
Opera. Absolutely.
Yeah, it was a soap opera for men. Like that was the big criticism, I guess, like to talk down on it. But the 90s was the hottest period in the business as far as TV ratings and that sort of stuff. Now there's less wrestling fans today. However, they spend more money. Right. They're more invested in many respects as far as, TV ratings are concerned.
This is true.
People are spending at an all-time high, and products inflation, you got to figure those things into stuff as well. However, there's a lot of things being manufactured nowadays that weren't. So like I grew up during the Attitude era was like kind of the hot point for me, even though like I caught the tail end of the golden era. The Attitude era, the big war was WCW versus WWF at the time, which is now WWE. Right. Famously, for example, WCW didn't even have much of a marketing team, so like they didn't even merchandise their stuff. They didn't have any licensing fees hardly, other than like NWO stuff.
Right.
That was very limited on what they did and didn't have. So today, fast forward that today, that's a part of being a wrestler, is you have to market yourself. You have to have merch or whatever the case is. So you can kind of tell us kind of your discovery of that and what you guys are doing.
I've discovered that marketing wise, I'm probably not the best in the world. I look, you're either really trying to make money out of this, or you're just having some fun.
Right.
And right now, you know what? I really am just trying to have some fun, but I'm getting good enough now in my ability and my physicalness and my body, and getting back into the ring. I'll get to getting back into the ring in a minute, but discovering the marketing and the stuff, I mean, you really got to put yourself out there. If you want to have a following and people wanting to be involved with you online, you have to be posting so much content. And that's something that is very difficult to do. It's difficult to manage and to think of things and to have these people entertained. Right. It's difficult to send to some promoters, because you're just, I mean, you're never fearful to just throw a message to a guy. Sure. But man, but sometimes whenever they tell you that, oh, well, there's just like not a spot for you, and I know a guy on there. I'm just like, dude, he's been going at this for like 3 months. Like, you got a spot for him? Like, where's the spot for? You got to have a spot for me. Is it something with the gimmick? Is something going on? Like,
looking for some feedback.
Yeah, just you don't gotta give me the runaround type of thing.
Sure.
Right.
Marketing yourself is very difficult. You have to really know what you're marketing to.
I think your situation is a little unique too. When I don't mean to speak for you, but you manage a wrestler also, so and that's string being, of course.
That's what I do. Yes, I'm a manager.
You kind of piggyback off of kind of their doings and their laurels in many respects as well. So
you definitely have to work with whatever they are, because your whole job as a wrestling manager, which is currently what I do. I've wrestled before, and I've wrestled many matches. I had a gimmick whenever I first started. I got a hernia. I don't even know if it was wrestling related. I was doing so much physical labor at that time. I was doing construction at the time as well. I don't know if it was probably.
It's hard to tell sometimes with that.
Right, yeah.
That type
Those
of an
can
injury.
pop up from a lot of things, right?
Yeah.
A lot of stress on the body at that time.
Sure.
And boom, there went my left leg.
Yeah.
Type like the hernias whenever your muscle just pops like that.
Yeah.
So I was out for a pretty good while, and I mean it messed with my head. And I do a lot of my wrestling. I do all my wrestling in Illinois, Kentucky, Tennessee, Indiana, places like that. Because
is it a part of the same promotion, or are you drifting from promotion to promotion?
no,
Like,
yeah, that's one thing you got to do to market yourself too. You got to go to a lot of places.
Yeah.
Now we normally just stick to a place called SNPW, which is strictly Nsane pro wrestling. That's just where we both got our start, and it's a nice just ground where you can be free to experiment.
Yeah.
And you can do a lot of things there. It's
Right.
pretty wild and free. It really is insane.
Yeah.
The place is crazy, and it's fun, and we enjoy going there, and we have a lot of friends that are there, so we go there a bit. And marketing yourself to those fans, they're so common there. They're so loyal to that place.
Yeah.
Like how we talked about earlier, they have a very loyal fan base, so you can really tell the story there. That's one of the fun
That's good.
things
That's
about
cool.
that spot.
That's one thing I was going to ask you about. If you had an opportunity to kind of work an angle, work a program,
absolutely.
really invest in the story piece of it.
Sometimes it can be really hard on this level of independent wrestling. Very rarely does a guy do this as his only job. We've got day jobs too. People have a real life. It's not just, you're not getting paid enough to be able to just be like, oh, well, I have to miss my kid's birthday or something.
Right.
Stuff comes up in real people's lives.
Yeah.
And
Right.
people can just be like, oh,
Even
hey.
like a promotion like Ring of Honor back in the day, like a lot of those guys had like mom and dad, like 9 to 5 type jobs, like Ian Riccaboni, one of the announcers for them.
Work needed me.
You know.
I can't come in tonight.
Yeah.
That angle that you were just working,
Yeah.
now you got to do a new match tonight. Stuff like that happens very frequently, which is fine, but we've gotten to do some pretty cool stuff. We did one with a guy whenever I came in. My cousin Ben, who String Bean, he is a baby face. And I won't get too deep into his story, but he had been a babyface for a minute, and it was plateauing. Needs a change. And he's talking to me. He says, come on, come back. So you know what I do? I hit the gym, and I really build up that confidence back. Seriously, medical trauma is a very real thing. After that, I was just like, dude, I'm done. I can never do this again. I've got mesh in my body now. I was hurt bad. I had to have big surgery, handicapped for a while. It's kind of like, ooh, should I ever do this again?
Right.
And then we talk about managing. He's like, what if you manage me? Me being a manager means I represent him as a wrestler. Like, I come out and I do the talking for him. I'm oh, yeah. And I'm like, this is my greatest creation of Dr. Egon Casanova. I was the creator of String Bean and my layer with magic elixirs. And I did all this stuff. And whenever you do like that, and then you become a character, and I'm his representative. Right. And that means I'm outside of the ring. I'm not bumping. I take a couple of bumps, not every match. Which is nice. It's just like, dude, I don't even have to bump. Like, this is great. My last match. I was going to say I didn't have to. No, I took a big World's Strongest Slam from Big Vic of AOC. And, my goodness, he's a big boy. So, boom. And big boy.
Put you down, yeah.
And you take some big bumps, but I don't have to do as many anymore. So having that on my side, it brought me back in. And I went in and we turned him heel by my arrival. And man, that just
lit a fire.
It did.
Got you hooked
it
again.
Did,
right?
seriously.
Got it in your blood.
We got heat.
Yeah.
Good heat. And it's that type of heat that you like. Like, man, it's so nice having the fans want to dislike you like that to that level. That means it's just like, man, we're bringing what you want.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's exactly what we're here for.
For sure.
Right.
To be able to give that. And I'm an improv guy, big time improv guy. I love just being in the moment and just giving it to me.
Yeah.
I love that type of a feeling. Give me that. Let's make a little bit of a plan.
Right.
Go out and have some fun.
Sure.
And it's good stuff to be able to do that. Whenever you're a manager, you get a lot of room for improvisation.
Yeah.
It's very fun.
So talking about improv, you know, too, I would have to think that there's some inspirations behind that. You know, were you like a SNL, Second City fan? You know,
SNL for sure.
What kind of lit the fire in the improv piece of it?
Probably it just came through the realization as I got older of what wrestling is.
Right.
Yeah.
That's where it came
got you.
from. That's where it came. I was just like, because I would listen to these old heads like Harley. I got to spend time with Harley Race is legitimately one of the hardest MFers to ever live.
Oh, yeah, for sure, man.
This is a tough son bitch.
He loved his little people.
The minis. Harley Race lived around here.
Yeah.
And he had a promotion in this area known as World League Wrestling, WLW.
Mm-hmm.
And I went to a lot of those shows. A lot of them. Once I realized what they were and what was going on. I mean, I got to go and I met Harley many times. A legend. And I mean that in all caps. All caps
absolutely.
GOAT.
Yeah.
Arguably top 10 wrestler
in the
all time.
world.
Yeah.
And he lives here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Before he died.
Right.
He's resting now. But he and I, like, he sat me down one time and, like, we had lunch. He literally invited me. He was just like, sit with me. And I mean, there I am as a kid, wanting to be a wrestler,
Right.
and just being like, I knew he was a legend.
I think he really enjoyed having people sitting under his learning tree by all accounts. You know, like that's something that
I wish
he
I could have
shined
done
with.
it at this age now, so I could have really asked the real questions. But I mean, there I was, just this bright-eyed kid, and I was just like, what was wrestling Ric Flair like? He
Yeah,
says,
for sure.
He's like, oh, kid, he's a tough son of a bitch. He just talks like that to you, and he's just man. And he had this left hand, and he cold cock you, and you're dropping.
Yeah. for
Okay,
sure.
I don't care who you are.
He was one of the first people to body slam Andre the Giant.
Yeah,
too,
he was.
like
That's
well
insane,
before Hulk
dude.
Hogan.
He
did
was.
it.
That's insane.
You know, he's a guy that got
Six-time
CM
NWA
Punk.
champion.
He's a guy that got CM Punk, a straight edge guy, to take a shot with him. So,
Yes. That man is one of the most respected men in all of wrestling. He got a guy known as Big Van Vader, Van Vader. This guy went to Japan and he tore them apart. And in Japan,
popped an eyeball out back in.
he literally, his eye popped out and he pushed it back in and continued the match.
Yeah, what sport is that going to happen? in another
None
sport?
other.
Right.
No other sport.
Yeah, he's the
and
hardest.
that stuff, like in Japan, that stuff is a sport. I've heard complaints be like, where's the selling in Japan? Why aren't guys acting like they're so beat up? And I'm like, 'cause this is a sport to them. Like, you're not going to show weakness.
Right.
Yeah.
And you're going to really, until it matters.
Right.
Yeah.
And they're really going to lay it in. And he went there and he tore them to shreds. And Vader respected Harley. Vader was afraid of Harley.
Yes, he was.
And being able to be around Harley gave me that taste of like, okay, this, and that desire of like, I need to know what the past was like.
Yeah, for sure.
And the past, very much so now, there's a difference in wrestling and time. Like in the past, it was much more improvisational heavy. Now it's very planned.
Very scripted.
I mean, dude, to the point where I've been a part of things where it's literally like, okay, I'll step here, you step this way. I'll go. I'm like, we're talking about our steps.
Like choreography type
Dude,
stuff.
I breathe,
right.
you exhale. It's like getting to that point. And I was like, okay, guys,
Right.
where's the feeling?
Right.
Yeah.
I'm a Grateful Dead fan for a reason.
Yeah, I hear you. Yeah, for
I
sure.
love jam.
Yeah,
I love
right.
jazz.
Yeah.
Make it up. Have the gut feeling and the nature in you to drive you. But have a plan. Go in there with a base.
Yeah, for sure.
You got to
For
go in
sure.
there with a base.
Bullet points.
What's the finish? How's the match going to end? Work backwards. Always go backwards. Who's winning? One, who's winning? This is how you make a match. One, who's winning?
Right.
Okay, get him. How is he going to win?
Right.
This way. Okay, how can we get to that?
Right.
This.
Right.
How can we get to that? This point. And then how can we begin it? How about we do that?
Right.
Done. There's your match. Go out there and have fun, kids.
Right. Things have gotten more and more scripted, but also more choreographed. So those are two different things. So when we're talking WWE, that product that you see on TV nowadays, what you've seen on TV for the last essentially 20 years, it's been heavily scripted and progressively more and more so scripted. So
Very
you're seeing,
controlled.
like, especially verbiage. Like, don't think that anything anybody says that comes out 99% of the talent is not having to say it verbatim. They can't even exchange, they can't use their own diction.
Right.
Essentially,
I've
their
heard
own
that.
choice of words in many respects and many occasions. Now, John Cena, The Undertaker, those are exceptions to the rules, but those are people that have
Legends.
earned millions of dollars for the company.
Right.
Yeah.
In many respects, probably really, if you were to sit down and equate it linearly from start to finish, and still currently and indefinitely, at the end of the day, they'll earn them billions between marketing and again the T-shirts, video games,
Ticket
this
sales.
and that, ticket
Right.
sales, so on and so forth. I mean,
Right.
it's really hard to equate that to one talent in and of itself.
Absolutely.
But to the choreography part of it, if you will, for example, a really good example I feel like is watch a Young Bucks match. There's a lot of choreography that goes into that, especially if there's furniture involved, as our friend Jim Cornette likes to say.
Yes.
Like your ladders and tables and chairs. Oh my!
I just saw that literally yesterday.
Yeah.
I just saw the Young Bucks yesterday win the AEW tag team titles
That's
in a
awesome.
ladder match
Yeah.
with tables in it.
Right.
Just what you were talking about.
Right.
And they are. A lot of people don't like that style. I know a lot of people who don't like that style. And it's polarizing because it's so far into one thing.
Right.
But here's the thing, ladies and gentlemen. Wrestling is music.
Right.
It's just like music.
I agree.
Yeah. Okay, so you don't like classical?
Yeah.
Well, go try rock.
Yeah.
Right.
There's rap out there too. There's funk. We got country.
Right.
Blues.
Right.
Wrestling's just like it. You don't like choreographed wrestling? Okay, go watch something in the 60s, bud.
Right.
There's so much to choose from, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. The choreographed wrestling does not bother me, though. I think that sometimes it can be a little just like choreographed. It looks the wrestling looks a little choreographed, but that's a part of the appeal. The part of the appeal is showing you, like, guys, look what we've made, and we're making this something
Definitely.
that we want it to be. This is our vision that we created. It's kind of like almost bringing it back to music. It's like your match is a studio released album.
Right.
That was very planned and controlled and like, okay, yeah, like this is what we wanted you to hear. That's how that matches. Young Bucks make their matches like that.
Right.
Of course there's improv in it. Of course there is.
Yeah.
But
it ain't ballet. Things happen.
yeah.
Right.
Yes. Oh, yes, absolutely. Anytime. I mean, you could go over your match 100 times in the back, but you get out there, it's a different story.
Right.
Something's going to happen. You're going to forget something. You're going to do something that's just, it might be bad. It might work. But choreographed stuff is pretty cool, in my opinion, because it allows for some pretty complex things that could never just
On the fly, right.
It couldn't happen on the fly. You had to have planned that.
Yeah.
So I got a lot of respect for them. I got a lot of respect for the Young Bucks. I think that they are literally one of the best tag teams of this generation.
Right.
A very fundamental driver in what is to become of wrestling.
Sure.
And I think that that's a pretty big feat. And to be able to have that in your art, that you are a driver in an entire genre.
Sure. I agree.
That's cool.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Two things about the Young Bucks. Like, they got me back into professional wrestling because I saw kind of a viral video going around of
When
them
was that?
having their super kick party. I'd say 2015,
I was going to
2016,
guess.
somewhere
I was
in that
going to guess
range,
then.
is when kind of the Bullet Club was starting to blow up and stuff again, And
That's whenever I got back into my fandom
Yeah.
of wrestling. I went on a hiatus
Yeah.
from about, I mean, I can actually tell you the exact date. I don't know it offhand, but it's whenever SmackDown went off of my TV and they went to Sci-Fi.
Yeah.
I remember that.
I didn't have cable.
Yeah.
I didn't have internet.
Yeah.
Right.
I didn't have either of those things. I had antenna television, so that meant, okay, wrestling's off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't have it
Yeah.
anymore.
That's the thing about wrestling, particularly in our generation too. Exposure, ability, access, all
the
that was
biggest
paramount.
thing.
So back when we were kids and the Monday Night Wars were popping off, like, you didn't have internet, you know. I mean,
Right.
even if you did,
Some did.
you're talking maybe like 56K modem at best.
Oh yeah,
Right,
yeah.
like
So I had
dial-up.
I had dial up.
Yeah, so
I had
like
dial up. It sucked.
I tried to like I would WWF pay-per-views at the time. I would wait up late at night, had to go to school the next day, and I would sit there and refresh, and it'd take 5 minutes for the page to load plus, and just to try and see what the results were, so I could talk to my friends about
I
it
didn't
the
even
next day.
think to do stuff like that as a kid.
Right.
Yeah.
I never did. Like as a kid, I was so just. I will see what like the only thing I knew about the wrestling was what happened on TV. I never heard any of the drama. I didn't even know the results. Like I was just like, okay, on SmackDown they have the Raw rebound. They're going to show me what happened on Raw, so I get to see some big things. And I'm not missing SmackDown, so I get to see that. And that's all I had access to. I didn't have TNA, didn't have ROH. I didn't have that access to that type of thing.
Right.
Even as a kid, I was a little turned off by the other product. I don't know why. Maybe that was like a brand loyalty thing or something.
I think so. Yeah.
I was just young. It was just like, oh, that I don't know that. That's like a kid not wanting to try new food. I think that it was just kind of like that.
Yeah,
I was like, oh, I don't know
you
these
get
guys.
stuck
I don't want to
into-
watch them.
It's kind of like your first love, if you will.
It was.
In many respects. So
It
like
was.
I wasn't like WCW. I admired it from afar, but it was always WWF for me at the
Really?
time.
Right.
Stone Cold Steve Austin was my favorite. He was heavy in a feud with the Undertaker off and on several different times too.
Stuff
That
was so
really
cool.
The Rock,
No,
Gold
Oh,
Dust.
yeah.
Rock, Gold
yes.
Dust is one of my favorites.
talk about The Rock.
You know, anything Val Venus I thought was hilarious and awesome because I was like
Val
really into
Venus.
Howard Stern, and he
It was
was
a really
porn star
interesting.
character.
It was a really interesting era. I mean, yeah, you harked on earlier how that was the most watched time. It was the most watched time for a reason. Guys were very improvisational at that time.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, they had a lot of I would say a lot, but more so leeway with their characters in many
They did.
respects. Don't get
They
me wrong; they
did.
still had their ceilings and leashes here from time to time, and a lot of things had to be produced and approved by Vince McMahon in particular.
That's the
Vince
do all
McMahon.
end all.
Speaking of which, Vince
Yeah,
McMahon's
yeah.
right in
What's
the
up
middle
with that
of
whole situation?
I actually, very recently, Vince McMahon has been brought into some type of an allegation. I really don't know much. I know something about him and Johnny Ace.
yeah, Johnny Laurinaitis.
Yeah, him and John Laurinaitis apparently were having what
Well,
they were paying hush money to a woman
get-
because they were having sex with her.
Yeah,
got you.
it was a paralegal that worked for WWE.
That's right.
And
Yep.
I think at
This
least
just happened.
what is reported,
Yes.
and this is all allegedly, so
Yes,
we don't want to get
allegedly.
sued here.
Yes,
Right,
allegedly
right.
this is occurring.
Vince McMahon had an affair with this woman
Allegedly.
and then was lending her out allegedly to Johnny Ace, which
Oh,
Johnny
God,
Ace,
dude.
Johnny Laurinaitis, talent relations.
Vince McMahon does it all now. He's pimping, baby.
Right.
Oh,
right,
gosh.
Right. So
I mean, was it proved that he did he like paid off money to save Jimmy Snuka because Jimmy
It was
Snuka
heavily
killed
speculated.
his girlfriend.
yo, no question about
Jimmy,
that. Yeah.
he was tried. He's killed his allegedly.
Even if you
he
don't-
wasn't convicted,
Even if you
allegedly
don't like
he killed his girlfriend.
wrestling, but you like true crime, there's a series I want to recommend to folks.
yes.
It's called Dark Side of the Ring.
Yes,
Do not watch
Yes.
Dark Side of the 90s. Do not watch Dark Side of the Football. That's all trash. Don't think that the same people involved, because they're not.
really.
It's actually one of the producers from the show did Hobo with a Shotgun, the movie.
Oh, okay.
So you need
Yes,
to.
I love
check
Hobo
it
with a
out.
Shotgun.
Yeah, Hobo with a Shotgun's excellent.
Yes, I could talk about that movie for
Jason
an hour.
Eisner, I believe, is the one who did Hobo with a Shotgun, and he's one of the show producers and
I did
showrunners.
not
so-
expect us to talk about Hobo with a shotgun.
So yeah, you've got to check out Dark Side of the Ring.
You should.
It's got.
You should.
I mean, I even watched episodes about things I didn't know anything about, and it just
How about the
purely
Luna
fast.
Vachon one?
The Luna Vachon one was
Ooh.
riveting.
Tearjerker. That was sad.
To me, the two sad. I don't know. It's hard to say because then they
There's
start
some
talking about
sad episodes.
the Von Erichs one. Really devastated me because
They
all
go-
the family trauma and everything.
go
Like
like
I
the
could
Benoit
relate to a
family.
lot of it. Yeah, the Benoit one I cried several times. That was a two-parter.
I didn't even watch it.
It was hard.
I didn't even watch
for
it.
sure.
I didn't. I probably will at some point, but like,
It's hard to watch, man. It really is.
yeah, I'm sure some people remember, or if you don't know, like there was a wrestler, Chris Benoit, very tragically was suffering from horrible mental problems because his head was literally obliterated over the years.
Yeah,
His
CTE
mind,
at the very least was his
CTE.
issue.
Oh my gosh! Whenever they did an autopsy, they were like, "This man has dementia."
Yeah.
Like this man has
For sure.
a mush mind, and in one of his fanatic states, he killed his child, his wife, and himself, and it was a horrible tragedy. And they talk on that, and that's to be talked about before you go and watch that episode, because that's what it's going to be about, and it's not going to be an easy watch.
Yeah, no, I would definitely recommend to not watch it in the company of small children or anything like that. It's very traumatizing.
Yeah, it's a very adult show
for sure.
It's a very adult show.
You know, they do a Jimmy Snuka, which got us on this talk. They did a Jimmy Snuka episode and explored that and talked to his girlfriend's surviving sisters. And got details, and it's very damning. I don't know how,
Vince has done some
things. They talked to the Tonga kid as well, who was a tag team partner, another Samoan with Jimmy at the time. You know, wrestling has this deep history and tradition, and so that leads me to my next question, is I wanted to ask you how you're kind of employing some of those traditions in wrestling today, outside of, the lingo and that sort of stuff, but is there anybody even... Maybe it's a particular manager that you draw inspiration from, or whatever the case is, and traditions that they uphold as managers. Is there anything you can elaborate on?
If I'm going from a guy I'm trying to pull from into my managing, it's the best. It's Bobby Heenan.
He's great, for sure.
He's the best ever.
Of the best, for sure.
I would say he is the best person who has ever touched wrestling, ever.
A lot of people don't realize he was a wrestler.
He was and not just a wrestler, he was one of the best ever.
Yeah.
Wow.
And people forget that.
Right.
He was one of the best bookers ever, meaning that he made the card and he made the stories. He
was out of the Indianapolis territory, right?
Perfect every time. Like Bobby Heenan. If you're not pulling from Bobby Heenan, you're doing it wrong. Yeah. Everyone should pull from Bobby Heenan. He was a vaudeville act. He took from vaudeville.
Right.
Which is something that I really try to take from, because vaudeville is all about visuals.
Right.
Well, wrestling's roots back into carnyism, if you will, in many respects.
It was.
From that.
It was. That's where a lot of the terms come from, because wrestling in the 1800s, it was a carnival act,
right?
And you would take on the local strong guys, or like you'd have a plant in the crowd, and they'd be like, "Oh, I'll challenge anyone here," or "Me." "Oh, I'll pick you," and then they have a match, and he beats him, and they do stuff like that. It's an entertaining thing for people at the time, and it grew into what it became with guys like Gorgeous George, and Buddy Rogers. You had guys like that developing it, and
Gotchas of the world.
Yeah,
can't forget him for sure.
Lou Thez. St. Louis. We can talk on St. Louis wrestling. St. Louis was a very historical place, and I really try to pull from them and what went down here, and especially the local guys. Like, it's cool to really take from guys like I talked about Harley's from Missouri, just taking from him and just being like, man, like, just being tough like him and going in there and throwing punches and stuff like that. Stuff's cool. And taking from Bobby and trying to be really witty and have cute like facial expressions and mannerisms, very visually open things. I also try to take from, like I said earlier, vaudeville. I really try to take from guys like Buster Keaton, the guy that's like Charlie Chaplin. He big on stunts, big on being goofy.
Right.
It's fun comedy. To be goofy.
Right. Enjoying yourself. Right.
Oh yeah. I try to keep those traditions. Those are the ones I'm really trying to kind of And I'm just trying to be entertaining. I'm trying to be a good guy in the back locker room, just a friend, someone that you can talk to, and we can have fun. Yeah. There's never going to be a problem.
You have to make things your own as well.
Have to.
To strike out, and it's hard to be original nowadays, and quite frankly, really most people aren't and can't be. But if you can pull from these amalgamations of inspirations and dabble a little bit of yourself in there, it can be original or it can feel fresh or so on and so forth. And a lot of these old school people that you're pulling from, people nowadays, especially young fans coming up, have no idea probably who they are.
Probably not.
May not ever.
Which is okay. Which is fine, people move on. I mean, geez, I'm sure that if I was talking to Bobby, like if Bobby was in the room, whenever I was saying those names, I'm sure that there's old guys that'd be like, how could you forget this? What about this? Like, that's just how time goes. Right. That's how it goes, which it can be sad, but it's okay.
I think it's important to be aware of and respect tradition, but also at the same time, you can't be married and muddled by tradition.
You cannot marry tradition.
to the change that it
I
can
hate seeing
bind
a lot of
sometimes.
guys like that. So I see guys today. They're like, no, wrestling needs to be like it was in the 70s. Wrestling needs to be like it was in the 80s. I see stuff like that, and I'm just kind of like,
People are not the same as they were in the 70s and
that
80s.
could never work.
Well, like
Couldn't do
Right.
that. We can't
like
do
a
that.
high spot in the 70s is missing a crossbody off the top rope, and
Yes.
that's the finish of the match.
Yep.
You know, like
Yep.
you know,
Yeah, and it gets
that
bad.
is a transition spot nowadays.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
hell, it's done in
nothing.
sequence nowadays for the most
Yes.
part. So
yes, that would just be like, okay, you go do this.
Right.
That's how it goes. And
Right.
guess what? That's okay. That's
Right.
okay. I just want to see guys be original. So many guys in wrestling, which a sad thing is that so many of these guys are here just because they want to be liked.
sure,
There's
Right.
a lot of hurt people in wrestling, and which is fine. I mean,
that comes hand in
Take-
hand
we'll
with a lot
take
of
anyone.
performance arts, though.
yes,
Too.
Right.
yes. Oh,
A lot of
big
children
time.
of abuse or dysfunctional homes or whatever the case
Theater
is.
kids are weird.
Yeah,
We all went to high school.
yeah, for sure.
Theater kids are strange.
I'm looking for somebody to like me. That's why I'm doing this podcast right now. You know?
See, yeah, this is why we perform. We're just begging for attention.
Yep.
And we need it. Oh my gosh, I'm so lonely. So these guys make these gimmicks that they're trying to be like, oh, I'm a badass. I want to be a badass. This is always what I hear. I'm this badass who comes in and I wear my jeans and I have a bandana because that's and leather because that's cool. And I'm gonna wet my hair.
Yeah.
Because that's cool. And they do this. And it's always guys trying to be cool.
Right.
See that so much. And yeah, it's cool to be cool. Like Steve Austin was cool because he was
Right.
cool. The Rock was cool because he's cool. Like
Right.
stuff like that can work. And coolness is something you have to earn.
Right.
Sure.
You have to earn to be cool. There's so many
Gotta
guys.
pay your dues.
You do. You got to do something. You're either cool or you're not.
Right.
You can't ask to be cool.
No,
There's
I
a
agree.
lot of guys that do that, and I think it's a shame because so many of these guys are good.
Yeah.
And I want to see them do good. I want all wrestlers to be good. But I had a guy one time tell me, it was my very first gimmick I did whenever I started wrestling in 2016, very fresh 19-year-old, a few days 19-year-old. And I was Eugene Drip, the nerd. And my whole gimmick was that I would wipe my nose. I had this runny nose.
Oh, okay.
And I would slime people in the face, and I would do this
Gotcha.
like pie face
like
to
that,
them.
yeah.
I like
You'd
that
wipe
gimmick.
your face. You could pie.
Sounds like my kid. Man.
I seriously was about to make that
dude,
joke. It
kids
sounds
loved
exactly
it.
like one of your kids.
Kids loved it. Kids love that gimmick. They think that it's so gross and fun, and like, oh, their parents get grossed out, so they're gonna have fun with it. And I did that, and I had a guy ask me one time. He's just like, I'll paraphrase, but he was essentially like, "Don't you want to be cool?" And I was like, I'm one of the, and I told him just right then and there, I was just like, I'm one of the most like cheered guys here, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I am cool.
Yeah.
And I don't have to try to be cool.
Right, right.
Because you're giving yourself into something that isn't cool or that is strange
You're looking
or,
for
or
a
different.
A never-ending cyclical satisfaction that you're never going to achieve because whenever you're too busy trying to be something for somebody else,
Yeah.
you know, you don't
Or
you
what
don't tap
you just
into the
think is this
character.
cool thing. Yeah.
Right.
So many guys don't really make a character. It's just like, okay, you came out in jeans and a bandana, like things. And I'm not calling out anyone in particular saying
Right,
this. I
right.
really am
Just
just
kind of
like,
commonalities.
Yeah, yeah.
Right.
It's just guys just trying to be a badass. Some of these guys can really pull it off, though. I know plenty that look great whenever they come out, and you're
Right.
like, that works.
Yeah,
That works for him.
Basically, what you've described to some extent, if you do watch wrestling current day, is kind of like an Adam Page character. He comes out
Gosh,
to the ring,
he's so
but
cool,
he
man.
pulls it off, you know.
Right.
But you
He's
can't
our
have
champ.
50 Adam Pages
Can't
running
do that.
down to the ring.
Not every guy.
You
Not
know,
every
right,
guy can
sure.
be what he is.
Yeah,
You can't.
cowboy shit.
Yeah. Oh, cowboy shit's so cool, man. That is such a cool gimmick. He's just doing wonderful, and I love to see that.
Yeah.
I would love at some point to really be able to know him. I think he's a cool guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think he's a real
I've heard some
neat
of his
guy.
interviews. I think he seems to be a little bit more well-educated,
Yeah.
well, he graduated early. I think he got a 4-year degree in 2 years or something to that effect through
Holy shit.
Virginia University.
A lot of the
Virginia Tech,
wrestlers that I know,
He's very intelligent.
are very, they did not have higher education. The level of wrestling that I do, there's very few of those types of guys.
I think around 2016 or 17, Adam Page was like named like the biggest prospect in wrestling when he was in ROH in particular, but he was like right in the middle of being in college at the time.
Dude.
That's crazy. You know, it really is crazy.
But you know, the present day he's doing very well for himself. But yeah, intelligence definitely helps you in the wrestling business too.
Yeah, you got to be smart, especially if you're here to make money.
Right.
Which most guys are. I mean, like a lot of guys, you get paid at the very least. Make sure you're getting paid. Money's not everything.
Right. For sure.
It's never been about
especially
everything.
when you're passionate about it.
Oh
you know
gosh,
what I mean? Yeah.
There's nothing more fun, especially just being able to really live a regular life.
Sure.
But then you also get to like, okay, well, about every other weekend, I get to go somewhere and I get to go be this wacky character that I'm literally dressed in this terrible looking costume. I want people to see me and be like, I hate you already because of how you do your hair. I do my hair in the stupidest ways possible. I got long blonde hair. I try and make it, okay, what
Top
stupid things?
And
dude,
pigtails and whatever.
Oh, yes. Pigtails especially. I love doing pigtails. People hate that.
Especially in the Midwest and bumfuck towns, I'm sure you get plenty of heat.
They go up to you and like, oh, a little bit fruity, aren't you? And I'm like, I was told to be, whenever it's the boring things, like you're just like, it's the same joke over and over again. I'm like, dude, literally, just think of something original.
Yeah.
Want to try?
Want to interact with you.
And try. Just don't keep giving me the same old. Like, you're boring, kid.
Right.
Oh, man, but it's fun. I try to remind myself that. I'm like, I always need to come with something new to give them. Strike them. I really want to, as a bad guy, I really do want to get a little under your skin.
Right.
Sure, that's the
just
point.
a bit. I'm not trying to really get you mad and be something that's like kind of mean or uncalled for, but people want that in wrestling. You're in the crowd to be heckled a little bit. I'm like, geez.
It's in the job description, man.
I'll point, like, if I see a kid sitting there and he's like, you suck. Oh, man, that one kid, I'm going to give you a moment you're not going to forget. The show is now about that kid for like 5 seconds.
Right.
But guess what? Hell no, he's not going to forget this. Whenever I point at him and I'm like, you're going to shut the hell up, or I'm going to get my monster to come down here and shut you up. And,
He'll never forget that.
Oh, dude, man. Stuff like that. Come on.
That's awesome.
Oh, yeah. And then
Have you had any awkward confrontations with parents in those type of scenarios?
No.
Okay.
They because
I mean, you hear
Their
stories.
parents too. Well, parents are parents too.
The parents see that and they're just like, he got to be a part of the show for a second. Like his night is made.
Yeah, that's cool.
Right.
Like we just won a match the other day and retained our title. By the way,
there you go.
I want to say we're defending champions.
So what's the title? What's the
SNPW Light Heavyweight Championship?
There you go.
So prestigious.
There you go.
It's a very prestigious title.
There you go. You don't hear light heavyweight championship much more.
We've also we're not light heavyweights. I'm going to say that the champ is not a light heavyweight, but here we are.
Yeah,
and we're defending champions, and we'll defend against anyone. I promise you that.
There you go. So tell us about your talent too. String bean.
To string bean. Okay. Well, string bean, like I said earlier, is my cousin. Man, I got him into wrestling. He's older than me. Mm-hmm. If it wasn't for him, I wouldn't be doing this podcast with you guys because he got me into actual wrestling. He, being older than me by 3 years, he was 18 first, which meant I can get in the ring now.
Yeah.
No restrictions, right?
He got in and brought me in, and he got that opening to be able to be like, okay, yeah, you can come in now.
So did he engage in like any type of formal training or anything like that?
Yes. He was trained and by a few people. He's been trained by a few people, just working with them and go here, and then we get like a new guy. But the guy that trained me is Tony Flood, the Canadian kid, and currently the SNPW heavyweight champion, who just won it in an incredible, seriously, I got chills in that match. He won it in a steel cage match, and it's just so special right now to be able to be like, wow, this guy that trained me, he's champion right now. We're champion right now.
Right.
And
Very cool.
It's just this wonderful feeling to be able to be like, man,
How
you
awesome,
taught me,
right?
you taught me a lot of really cool things.
Yeah.
You really showed me how to like work in the ring and how to think about the ring and how to view the ring.
Yeah.
I don't look at a wrestling ring like how you, how a fan
Casual
might
fan
look.
might,
Yeah, how
yeah.
a fan might look at the ring. To them, it's just a ring. This is a jungle gym. And it has ways that you can cut it up and you can look at sections of it in your mind.
Yeah.
And dice it up into all these like areas where it's just like, well, here we can do this, and this area we can do this, and this we can do that, and that whenever you have that type of a format in your mind already ready, then you already know, just like, okay, well, this is whenever we're over here, this is what we can do, and that improvisation can come out much easier.
Yeah.
Right.
And String Bean is a very choreographed guy. But he's so good at it. Seriously,
Yeah.
he can remember things in the way that I can't.
He works under a hood, though, right?
He's
Like
a masked character. He's my greatest creation. That's what he is. I am the professor, the evil doctor. By the way, Doctor Egon Casanova. I didn't get my
doctor.
I didn't get that PhD for nothing.
Where'd you
I'm a
get
doctor.
that PhD from?
Places.
Places unknown? Parts unknown?
Yes, I went to Parts Unknown College.
There you go.
MD, and I got my
Framed and everything.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh, I should.
Any truth to the fact that you minored in OBGYN studies?
Yes.
I figured.
He suffers from
I know. I do.
tunnel vision.
Mainly, I do prostate exams these days. That's about all I
There you
do.
go. Do it for
I'm
the
about
boys in the
due.
back.
Yep. I
I'm
do.
about due.
I do.
Hey, we're running live. Let's cut to Joss's prostate exam right now.
Yes. We'll check you. I'll get the gloves. String Bean's really good at the memorizations, for real. He really is. And he's really good at being charismatic underneath a mask.
Right.
Yeah,
He's a mask guy.
That's an art, for sure.
He's a mask guy because we want to set ourselves apart.
Right.
There's nobody doing what we're doing right now, and I'm going to promise you that.
Yeah.
Very
That's
good.
a promise. For real. Like, there is nobody in the entire industry who is doing what we're doing. We are... I'm this evil scientist who created an evil vegetable, this monster. He's the god of the garden.
There you go.
He's the prince of the produce aisle, the savior of the stalk. My greatest creation, Phaseolus vulgaris, String Bean.
Yeah, I love it.
And it's there's nobody doing what we're doing.
Right.
Any truth you worked for the Obama administration, for Michelle Obama and their campaign on health?
Hey, if we can get the Obama administration to sponsor us,
Well, they're producing all kinds of Netflix
you give me
series
money.
now, so maybe we can throw it to them and hopefully
us a
get
call,
you a Netflix
Barack.
show. Yeah, Barack, hit us up.
Hey
He's
Michelle,
on speed dial.
give me a call. We'll come out and we'll be your mascot.
That'd be awesome.
We'll turn face for you. Don't worry.
For sure. I don't know, man. It might be more beneficial for y'all to work heel.
We typically, being a manager, you want to be a heel.
for sure.
Typically, you
Not
want to
a lot
be a
of
bad
baby
guy.
faces have,
But you can do
managers,
it.
but
And
it
there's
can
no,
work.
and I love babyface managers.
Yeah.
Whenever it's a team that works well with each other,
right.
and it's just like you like that pairing,
Right.
What's wrong with it? I know guys that swear, like, they almost take it as like some type of scripture. They're like, "Oh no, a manager can never be a baby face."
Right.
And I'm like, why not?
Who says? Right.
Yeah, who says who?
Right.
Nobody.
Anything can be done as long as it's done well.
This is wrestling.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
just
Sure.
be good at what you're doing. See if it works.
Exactly right.
Now, typically it doesn't work, but
Yeah.
it's okay. Maybe one day we'll see, but like, I don't want to be good right now. I'm a bad boy.
You're enjoying the badness.
We kind of
I'm a
teased
bad boy.
why
Yeah,
it
I
does
love
and
it. I
doesn't
love
work toward the end of our last episode. You know, like why kind of it's beneficial to have a manager if you're a heel in particular.
Yes.
So, some of what I expounded upon on the last episode was the fact that, it's kind of a way for a babyface to get his comeuppance on a heel is to kind of go after the manager sometimes.
Yes.
And
I
not
get chased
totally
a lot.
discredit, the heel and their badassery. So
Yep.
you have kind of a monster heel is kind of the
do.
gimmick. It sounds like
He
you're
is a
working
monster.
here.
He's a monster.
So you
He's
don't
a
want
big
him to
guy.
be taking constant bumps. You don't want him to get beat up every show.
Right.
You getting beat up is a way for the babyface to get their payback, if you will.
It's also a way to just give the crowd another form of satisfaction.
Yeah,
because whenever I'm really pissing the crowd off, and whenever I'm under your skin, especially whenever you give me that microphone, they are mouth breathers and ingrates is what these fans are to me. And I'm like, dude, you guys suck.
Do you ever get in there deep and start making accusations of incest and things like that?
Oh, of course. I mean, dude, there's no question for some of them.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sure I believe that. Hey, man, it's the Midwest, man. There's some of that
We're
going on.
from Southeast Missouri, bud. We know, yeah.
Seen a little bit of it. Monkey Mountain's around the corner, fellas.
Yes, you can tell. You can just look at a kid and be like, you poor thing.
Yeah. That gene pool's a little
parents
shallow.
are cousins,
don't
aren't
dive
they?
in. That gene pool's too shallow. Don't dive in. You might
They don't have a family tree. They have a wreath.
Yeah, there you go.
It's a Christmas wreath.
Yeah.
Yep, it's a circle.
It looks like one of those death metal band fonts, you know.
That's a good call.
To each other.
Man, they're something, dude. And just getting under the fans' skin like that, giving them the satisfaction of seeing like me get chased.
Yeah.
And he almost gets me.
You're right.
He almost got me.
But that slimy ass motherfucking...
Oh, yeah, I escaped this time, but then the next time he comes at me, he gets me. Oh, but that's whenever String Bean comes in and he hits him in the back of the head. Oh, now I'm free again.
Dangle the carrot.
Yeah, we're building you up. We're teasing it up. But guess what? At the end of the show, I'm getting slammed. That was a loud pop. People really wanted to see me get beat up.
Yeah.
And whenever he comes in, he gives me this big chop and pulls me in, Tiger Driver. People were standing. It's like, they were like, yes.
Finally got him, man.
Got him. Hey, he got him.
Sure.
And
that's the thing with indie shows, too, sometimes. So if you've never been to one, I definitely recommend somebody at least experience it once. So kind of a common place if you're from this area. Not to say check out Egon Casanova, but
yes, sir.
In St. Louis
Doctor
in particular.
Egon Casanova.
Yes, there you go. In St. Louis in particular, Four Hands actually puts on independent wrestling shows sometimes.
Check out Dynamo Pro. I got a lot of fans there too.
Yep.
Check out Dynamo.
So
got
Dynamo
a lot of good
fans.
Got a lot of good friends there.
This is Barrett from the ATI podcast. Each week, Josh and I discuss current events, pop culture, music, TV, movies, politics, sports. Nothing is out of bounds. You can also tune in to learn about rising artists, small businesses. Whether it's music, graphic design, filmmaking, or even a brick and mortar mom and pop shop, we will be spotlighting folks and their endeavors. Listen to us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music, Anchor, or anywhere you enjoy your podcasts. Just search ATI Podcast. We would like to thank you for your continued support, and as always, please stay safe out there. And now Stevie Richards has opened up a school, or not Stevie Richards, excuse me. Who is it that opened up the school in St. Louis?
I'm aware of what you're talking about, but I don't know enough
that was
about
a lot
it to
of the
comment.
talent. Warhorse is one of the
Davey
Davey
Richards.
Richards.
Cool,
That's who. I'm sorry. Davey Richards is the one who has the school in St. Louis. Warhorse is one of the
String Bean
trainers
worked
there.
on shows with Warhorse.
Yeah, Warhorse has made quite a name for himself. Has been on
so proud
AEW a
of him.
few times. He was at.
I've never met him, but I'm proud of him.
He wrestled a dark match last time AEW was in town. I saw him.
He wrestled one yesterday.
Oh, he did.
Mm-hmm.
My son and my wife went yesterday.
It was fun though. You know, just seeing guys like that, seeing guys they're like, dude, you worked where I work. You're friends with guys I'm friends with.
Right.
Here you are.
It's kind of a brotherhood in that way.
It is.
Right.
Brotherhood. It's like that. It's like that in combat. It's like that in sports. It's like that in acting.
Yeah.
Any type of a place where you are forced to work with each other. That's a big thing in wrestling. First rule wrestling. You got to have trust.
Yeah.
Trust in you that you're going to get me over. And you are going to protect me.
Right.
Because I'm going to do that for you.
Everybody's trusting each other with their
Got to trust
bodies.
you. You have to, oh my God. It is so easy. One of the best wrestlers ever, Misawa, had his death anniversary 3 days ago or 4 days ago. He's a Japanese wrestler and he died in 2009. From a back body drop. It decapitated his head. It severed his spine.
Yeah.
And his head was attached, but it was decapitated.
Right.
Dead.
Yeah.
Back body drop. That is literally me just like picking you up and falling backwards. And that's what killed him.
Right.
So you got to trust who you're working with. Yeah.
You can die at anything, man.
Right.
You can die at a basic. He's literally one of the best ever.
Yeah.
Ever. And I've said that a couple of times in this, but like, he's the best in what he did.
Right.
And that's what killed him. And you see guys doing some crazy things.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
And you're just like,
I mean, again, back to
did
AEW last night, people jumping off of ladders and going through
oh my gosh.
levels of tables.
Luchasaurus took a massive bump and fell through 4 tables.
Holy shit.
Insanity.
I'm just
That
sitting there
dude's like
like
6'7" too, and
Right.
got to be 300 plus pounds.
oh my
honestly.
God. Yeah. And he's falling like, he probably fell 15, 17 feet.
Yeah.
Easily. Yeah.
And,
easily.
like, it's, you don't think about that though.
Yeah.
You can't let that get in your head.
Right.
You can't let it get in your head that it's literally like, dude, this guy could scoop slam me and no fault to him and no fault to me. I could be completely paralyzed.
Yeah. For sure.
It can happen. It's happened. It has happened.
Yeah.
Right.
Scary stuff.
Yeah.
Well, it's important to be trained and constantly train.
Yes. Always be training. And that's one reason why I became a manager too. Ring shape is a very real thing.
Oh, for sure.
And and after that hernia, man, and still in my current state, I'm better. I'm getting so much better, but my ring shape is still getting the rust off of it.
Yeah.
Ring shape is very real. You cannot be out of ring shape and go in a match and take 20 bumps.
Right.
Yeah.
It's literally guys, a big bump scientifically has been proven, man, that the force of impact is literally a 20 mile per hour car accident. And that's every time. If you see a guy just getting slammed, he literally just had a car accident.
Every time. Right.
You cannot be out of ring shape and get into a ring.
Right.
And I knew that. And I'm thinking, okay, how's a way I can get back into this without having to do that? I can take a couple of bumps in a match. I'm a tough guy. I'm not afraid. I love this sport. I trust the guys and gals in here. That's another thing. I've wrestled women. Yeah. I don't have a problem with it. If you are able-bodied enough, and you got
consenting.
Yes.
What does it matter?
Absolutely. I've wrestled with women. It's fine. And some of these girls have made good names for themselves now.
Shit.
So I feel good about
Rhea
being
Ripley
a part
would
of
kick
that.
the shit out of me. I tell you that, right? I'd like her to kick the shit out of me too, for the record.
Yes.
There's a couple of them.
I'd be a bit more okay with it from her than anyone else.
Yeah.
I'd be more okay with it.
Hell yeah.
She's incredible, man.
Yeah.
Gosh,
I mean, there's a lot of good
big
women talent
arms.
out there too. Yeah.
Yes.
And,
oh my gosh.
There's
Especially
women
in
wrestlers
Japan.
as good, if not better, than men in many. Like, I think arguably Rhea Ripley and Charlotte Flair, for that matter, are two of the absolute best wrestlers, period, male, female, or otherwise.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Their ability is incredible. A lot of people, like, the way I got into watching Japanese wrestling was through the women.
Right.
Yeah. Like
Their
the Shimmer Girls.
ladies are tough.
Yeah.
And I mean that in all caps and in the gridiron font too.
Right.
I mean it in that. These, like, seriously, the ring that they wrestled in is about as hard as a boxing ring, and they are just going like Mayami Toyota. Oh my God. I don't know how she walks.
Yeah.
She's alive today. She wrestled in the past. She wrestled like 20, 30 plus years ago. I think she even still wrestles today. And I'm like, how are you even walking?
Yeah, that's
because
crazy.
you see her doing, like, imagine this. Here you have the ring. She's doing a shotgun drop kick right off of the top. And ladies and gents, that's a 11 to like 14 foot drop. And she's just falling right on her back.
Yeah.
And she did it every match.
Right.
Multiple times. That was like her move.
That's like Kairi Sane, the double drop that
She's
she does.
insane.
She like literally bends and folds her body up into
I
almost a V
love
shape.
Kairi Sane.
And like that trauma that she's getting on her tailbone in particular. But
Tough.
Yeah, she's
They're
absolutely.
just made of iron or something. And I'm not. I could never go toe to toe with any of those ladies.
Yeah.
They're incredible.
Yeah.
Anyone that's on this like professional level, like 9 times out of 10, they're built different.
Right.
I just went on I had a really good moment of introspection recently, thinking about me and professionalism like this, because it's everyone's dream. It's just like whenever you're a boy playing football, you want to be in the NFL.
Yeah.
You're like, I'm going to be in the NFL.
Yeah.
I'm going to go to college.
Yeah.
And I'm going to make a name for myself. And then that summer you play baseball, and then you're like, I'm going to go to the MLB. I'm going to be in the MLB.
Yeah, for sure.
And it's going to be me and my friends.
Yeah.
We're going to all make a story.
We're going to do it.
And
Sandlot style.
I went on a trip recently with my girlfriend, and we had a 2-week trip with 2 weeks with a week of camping. We went to 7 national parks.
Hell yeah.
And it was all in the American West. So we're talking like your Grand Canyon, Black Canyon of the Gunnison. And I mean, it was some tough camping, but that 2 weeks of travel and that driving, the whole time I was thinking about guys like Flair talking about making towns.
Yeah.
I was thinking about the old heads talking about making towns, going around. And this means you're going from like Cincinnati, then the next day you got to book it in Atlanta. You got to wrestle 2 matches in Atlanta. Now you got to go all the way to Charlotte. Guess what? 2 days later, we're in Tallahassee.
Yeah.
And that doesn't end.
Right.
Professional wrestling does not have an off season.
That's right.
It's constant. Does not end. And so I'm thinking about making towns. And I come back from this trip, and I was camping, and we did a lot of hiking, but I'm still recovering from it. Like, my lower back is still shot.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, man, how are you guys? It's a different level.
Yeah, for
and that really gave me some perspective.
Yeah.
High-level athletes.
High-level athletes. Correct.
Right.
Correct.
Absolutely.
High level. It's a different level. You either have it or you don't.
Right.
I agree.
Started whenever I was 19, but I'm 25 now. And that means I'm closer to my 30s than my 20s.
Well, it's even
at this
crazier
point.
to think about somebody like Diamond Dallas Page, who literally started his wrestling career at 35.
Insane.
So that's wild.
But he's a different story.
That's when
There's
he
literally
started.
no one else has ever done that. No
Yeah.
one.
Little to no one, for sure.
person has
Yeah.
ever done the amount of success that he achieved.
Sure.
No one's ever
Sure.
done it.
Right.
He's a one in ever.
One could make the argument that it's probably never going to happen. I mean,
I
there's
don't
always
think it
exceptions to the
could.
rules, but again, you have to
Yes.
think about the time he
That's
came
the
up.
cool thing
in
of
the
wrestling. There's no
business, too.
anything can happen.
Right.
Like, that's one fun thing about wrestling is surprise. We are fans of surprise. We
Right.
want to be every show at least one surprise. Just something.
Absolutely.
Even if it's something small, just be like, I haven't seen this guy in a while.
Yeah,
Nice to
for
see
sure.
you. Or, oh my God, you've never wrestled here before.
Right,
what a
right,
pleasure
right,
to have you.
Plenty of that last night at AEW.
Oh, yes, absolutely. Sting came back, and it's
Yeah.
just like, that's one thing.
Right.
Sting's 64,
Right,
and he's
that's
still
crazy.
going in there, throwing punches, dropping the stinger.
Honestly, he works as well, if not better than 50% of the roster.
I'm no
you know.
question about that, bud. Sting pops me every time, man. Anytime I see him, I get excited. I get happy. I'm like,
It's incredible to
yes,
see him, man. He's jumping off
yes.
of balconies on the people on
I
the
never
tables
thought he
and shit.
That's one thing.
Bodies. He never
were
did that
like,
before.
People were like, Sting will never wrestle again, especially after he had a really bad injury. He went to WWE for just like 2 matches.
Yeah,
Like 2 matches.
essentially.
He got injured in one of them, and already being an older guy,
Right.
pretty bad spine injury, a spinal injury.
Yeah.
Comes back 64, jumping off of balconies.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
it's
Right.
insane.
20-foot drops, and he's going through tables, and it's just
Yeah.
like, you don't know. You never know in wrestling. And I try and put that perspective on myself too. I try and think like, I never know what can happen with me in this.
For sure.
You just got to be open. It goes back to marketing. You got to be ready for that. You got to be if you really want a taste of something a level above, just be ready. And moving in that is a very exciting thing, and it's very scary too.
Yeah.
So I wanted to ask you too. You know, you and String Bean, you guys are working the circuit right now. What
Yeah, we
what
are.
kind of prospects do you have in the future? I know you guys got a show coming up in July. Can
We
you
do.
talk about
We
what
do.
you have going on?
We have a show coming up in July. I believe NOCW is. I believe that's the name. It's going to be a very interesting show. I almost wish that.
It looks kind of like a wild card. I saw the flyer.
Yes.
And I shared it actually today.
Oh,
to
hey,
tease
thank you, man.
coming
Thank
on
you.
the show.
Thank
so
you. Very.
We'll share it some more.
Could be No, I think it's in OCW. I haven't even talked to the booker yet.
Okay.
We found out because we were on the poster.
Oh my goodness.
But we have so many like friends. We have like 3 friends that are there. They're just like, oh yeah. Are you? He asked like what? We have tons of friends. We do this for guys too, where you just exchange dates with each other. Where you're like, I'm free this date. If you can find a booking for me,
I'll
tell
take
the
it.
guy.
Yeah.
And get me booked.
Right.
Yeah. It's
And
not a
we
bad
had a friend
idea.
to do that, and we saw that we were on the poster, and we were like, "Hey, you forgot to tell us." And he's like, "Oh, yeah, you guys are booked. Well, I got it all figured out for you." So it was like, okay. But we found out because we were on the poster, and it's going to be a really interesting show. So if you're in the Memphis area, I believe over the age of probably I think it's 18. I've never done a show like that where it's adults only, and I believe the reason for that is because there's going to be a party afterwards where there's like a bar, and I think that they just want like.
Right.
Oh yeah, okay, we already have.
They can kind of police the
I
underage
think
drinking and whatever,
I think
that
that
sort of
it's
thing.
I think it's because of that. So I'm really excited. This is the 4th time that this event has gone on. It's going to be a pool party. So I'm like really just kind of like okay, never done anything like this before, and I'm here for it. I am ready to go there and get heat.
You're ready to get a bump into the pool.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Yes. I think that would be great.
Yeah,
I would
for
totally do that. Why not?
Absolutely.
Right.
That little things like that can be the thing that people remember whenever they leave the show. Just funny things like that. And I want that. I love going out there and just getting heat this whole time for that one moment where you as the fan get that payoff of watching me get my ass kicked. It's fantastic. It's fantastic. It's so pleasurable to be able to give that to people. And I hope we give that. Typically, we usually, like I said earlier, we're usually just at SNPW right now, which runs in Crossville, Illinois. Sometimes we're in Ina.
So how far is that from here, just to give some people some perspective?
I typically drive well over 3 hours for every show I go to.
Is that kind of central Illinois then?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a bit closer to central. I would say at the very least, like as north southern Illinois is about you're gonna get. It's also close to Indiana, so most of our fans live in like Tennessee, Indiana. And we're going there, and we've also done some things in Indiana, like I just said.
Okay.
We've done a lot of things in Indiana, and this will be our first time in Tennessee, which is very exciting.
Done anything with Cape Championship Wrestling? Because I know that's a thing that goes on.
I've got a lot of friends that work in Cape, good friends, and I've had a few people talk to me about it before. See, here's the thing: in the state of Missouri, they're very strict about professional wrestlers. I don't know if they have heat with us or what, but
You're referring to like athletic commissions?
yes,
type stuff?
the athletic commissions does not like us for some reason. Even though we're just actors, like we should be considered as such. We shouldn't have to be. You have to be licensed to work in the state of Missouri, which they give reasons that are almost like impossible to disagree with. They're like, well, we make you get blood tests to make sure that you don't have hepatitis and you don't have HIV.
Heart conditions.
And it's just, or like you don't have this. And it's like, okay, I get it.
Yeah.
Right.
Just let me wrestle.
That's what kind of
Just let me
killed,
wrestle.
back to the Brady business he was mentioning to us, that's kind of what killed some of the mom and pop MMAs too.
Yeah.
You know, was the state
Heavy
that
regulation.
Yeah. heavy
Oh, dude.
regulation by
And
state
you will get
athletic
shut down. I know that there was a promotion that tried running around here and they did not have the right type of cards.
Right.
They're not here any longer.
Right.
So, gotta watch your ass if you're in the state of Missouri.
Absolutely.
But here's the cool thing, guys. I just got my health insurance.
Hell yeah.
So, I'm going to go get my license and...
Make that a possibility now.
Yeah, and then that's the perfect way of putting it. I'm going to make that a possibility. And I would love to go there. I do have good friends that are down there. Pretty prevalent acts a part of it. So maybe a possibility one day. I don't want to close doors.
Right.
I want to go
should
any.
you.
Yeah. Why
Take any
not?
opportunity to
Right.
get it this time.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Like it would be. You know how cool it would be to work in St. Louis.
Oh, yeah.
I'm a St. Louis guy. I love
Yeah.
St. Louis.
Right.
Yeah.
Just to be able to be like, man.
Right.
This place has history.
Yeah.
This is my town too. Like, and I've got my friends here.
Right.
How much fun we're gonna have with that? Absolutely.
They're getting ready to do wrestling at the Chase again with NWA in particular.
How
You know,
exciting.
how crazy would that be as a fan of Harley that you get an opportunity to go there?
Man.
You know, kind of make things
would
full
mean-
circle, right?
Yeah. See, Harley Race wrestled in NWA, and yeah, they've come back, and NWA's like, oh, man, that to wrestle in St. Louis, that's a dream thing.
Yeah.
I'll put that. They give you an answer for that, like a dream thing that I could do. That's one of them.
Yeah.
Wrestle for the NWA in St. Louis.
Put it out there and let's materialize
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
Right?
Well, why not? Yeah, let's put
Make
it
it
out there.
happen,
Let's put it out there.
Billy
Right?
Corgan, I know you're listening.
Me,
Dick Aldis.
Dr. Egon Casanova and String Bean wrestling for the NWA in St. Louis. We're materializing it right now,
Hell
folks.
yeah.
Put your hands in
heard
the
it
air.
here.
Yeah.
Put your hands in the air.
Hearing
It's
it
like
here
Goku.
first on,
It's like Goku. It's like the spirit
ATI
bomb.
podcast. We
Yes.
get all these exclusives.
Yes.
It's gonna happen.
Yes, exclusive release. It's fun to have dreams in this, but like I said too, man, traveling like that is so tough, and especially whenever you want to have a real life. Traveling really does get in the way of that.
Definitely.
Right? I grew up in a house where my dad was on the road. I had a normal life growing up,
Yeah.
but I grew up with my dad a lot on the road. I know what that's like. You know how hard it would be to like knowing the missus is at home, the
Right.
kids are at home,
Right?
Right.
you're
Problem
not at
comes
home.
up, you can't do anything about it, and you're out there trying to earn that paper.
But that's what you're doing, like
Yeah.
that. But I'm okay enough. I want both, I guess. I don't know.
Well, you're young, you can figure it out.
That's the thing,
Yeah.
man.
You got a lot of years to yet.
I've still got like so many things I want to try, and that's one thing. And me as a real person, as Derek Hankins, me as my actual self, there are so many things I've gotten to do in my life that were dreams, and I did them already.
There you go.
Bucket
So
list
like,
stuff.
yeah, like
I'm
I
jealous
got
of that. I should do that more.
I got to do radio. I had a radio show for 3 years, and I loved it.
Yeah.
I
Where's
got
that
to do
at?
that. KTJJ J98 The Boot.
Okay.
Yeah.
Check them out
I
if you
grew up in
love.
Farmington, so I know all about it.
KTJJ. I
Yeah.
loved it, man. AM radio. That was some fun stuff. I was also on FM, but man, gosh, it was fun. I did that. I wanted to be a funeral director for a little while. I worked in funeral homes. That was crazy.
Yeah, one of my friends' wives worked with a funeral home, and she moved on to a different career path.
Oddly enough,
Some people do.
my wife's a nurse, and she said if she would ever go and further her medical career, that's what she would go into.
Really?
Yeah.
Really? It's not bad.
She's a hospice nurse, though. So
Okay.
she's,
Kinda used
she's
to that.
accustomed to
She
it.
is.
Right.
Yeah. She's used to that type of a thing.
Yeah.
But I had so many fun times being there. Like I got to work with my dad. That was so cool.
Yeah.
I got to do cool things like drive around all over the state of Illinois. Like I went to Chicago one time to pick up a body. That was cool. Just drive around. You go to a drive-through and just tell a guy, be like, "Hey, there's a dead guy in the back." And I was like, "What?
Fuck his
really?"
day up,
And you're
why
like,
don't you?
"Yeah, there
Damn,
is.
son.
It's fun."
Hey, check this out, boys.
Dude, I would. You'll be like,
You
"Hey."
ever seen a dead body?
I would. I'd be like, "Hey, you want to see a dead body?" No, never. It was fun, and that was a dream. Really, being able to do dreams is something that you should do in your life, and just try to any type of degree. I see what I've already done as a success.
Right.
This is a success because I did it. Now my dreams are gone. They've gone further, but in my eyes already, I've already succeeded far beyond
you gotta set
whatever I
goals
could.
for yourself.
You have to. In anything
moving.
that you do. And it's good to keep moving. It really is. It's good to set that. And we set one tonight. I'm manifesting to wrestle for the NWA in St. Louis. That would be incredible.
So that's a dream of Derek Hankins,
Yes,
right?
that's a
For
dream
sure.
of Derek
So
Hankins,
let's
yeah.
talk about how the character is Derek Hankins
Okay.
and how it's not of Dr. Egon Casanova.
Well, for one, I'm not a doctor.
I thought you were this whole time. What about that prostate exam? Josh?
That was just for fun.
All right.
That was just a prep one.
Not a trained medical professional, apparently.
I know I had a good time.
I'm not a doctor, but I play one on TV.
Yes, that's exactly it.
There you go.
The things I put in, because like you said earlier, the best gimmicks come from whenever you take from yourself and you put it into them.
Right.
And that's true. That is true. Take from you what is you. And the way I put that, it like a big thing. I can't get around that I have hair like this. I've got this long, blonde, pretty hair.
You can get around it. I mean, I got some clippers in there.
No, we're okay. We're okay. I just got a haircut. Just 2 days ago. I'm okay. You gotta use just already what you got. Like, okay, so I look the way I do. What can I do with my hair? I do things, make people mad with it. I like to... I thought to myself, I was like, okay, well, what do I have already in my like wardrobe? What are things that I can use? And what do like scientists wear in real life that I know? They usually wear like
lab coats.
Yeah, lab coats. Khakis. And they wear just like, khakis. And I know all these nerdy ones, and they wear like their like Chacos or whatever they are with them.
Yeah.
And with white tube socks. So it's just like, okay. I'll do that. And then I thought of ways. What's more ways I can get under your skin? How can I show you something you don't like? So I wear the Hawaiian shirts with it, too.
There you go.
Because it's bright and eye-catching. And then I didn't even think to do it. I just came up with it one time. I started tying it. You know, like how Daisy Duke would tie her shirts.
Yeah.
I started doing that. And, man, people hate that. Because
Really?
I always wear, you wear a different Hawaiian shirt, and they're like, you look so stupid with that. And and as they put it, bit fruity. It looks a little fruity. A little bit fruity. And that
where those undertones are going.
Yes. And that gets them going. And okay, if that'll do it, why not?
So are you trying to tell us that you're a bit fruity? Is that where the character's at?
Yeah, sure. Why not?
You
know, like I've painted my nails a lot with the character. I do my hair in all these crazy ways. Dude, whatever. It's fine.
Hell yeah.
Like,
I would say fun. Quirky, maybe.
Quirky, sure.
Right. That's more.
That works. That works.
Right?
That works. Just like, I try to be very flamboyant with it because I really do take from guys too, like Bobby Heenan. I try and take from my great aunt. She was a fan of wrestling, and she was enamored with Gorgeous George. So it's like, okay, take from that. Like he had long blonde hair too. I also take from Michael Hayes.
Okay. Michael P.S. Hayes.
Michael P.S. Hayes.
Freebird.
Dude.
Yes,
he's great. And I take from stuff like that, too, because he's just this guy who comes out with this strut.
Yeah.
And he lets his hair he's going with his hair. And it's just like, okay, well, I can do that.
Yeah.
And I'll take from that. And stuff like that is already in me.
What are the chances that we're getting you in a lime green 3-piece suit like Michael Hayes?
0. I actually like to dress good.
I agree.
No, he's great, man. Yeah. I really appreciate him and what he's done for the business. I do.
Sure.
He's a cool guy. I would love to meet him one day. I've read so much about him.
I think
and learned so much about him.
At least it was for the longest time. One of the biggest record-setting gates in the South was in Louisiana. It was Junkyard Dog and Michael P.S. Hayes.
Isn't that awesome?
Yeah.
Junkyard
New Orleans,
Dog was
I believe.
so cool. I love
JYD, baby.
Thump.
Yep.
And that's it. Just thump. Yep. He'd go out there and he'd just thump you. And that was it.
Right.
And my God, could he get everyone behind him.
For sure.
Simple things. That's the thing in wrestling, too. Simplicity. Just something that is so easy that you can just bite into.
Mm-hmm.
Like Junkyard Dog. Thump.
For sure.
And he just came, and it was on his tights. It was on his butt. On his big old butt. And he just...
card.
He just thump you. And he had these white trunks, red print, thump. You didn't, and he had the chain because he was the junkyard dog, so he had this chain.
Yep. What more do you junkyard dog chain on.
What more do you need?
Yeah, it's perfect.
Sure. Now, see, I'm a little antithesis of that because I have like 8 different things going on.
Right, you're a gimmick of a gimmick.
Yes, very gimmicky, but I like to do that. That's a part of me where I'm really trying to. I'm like, man, how can I have like all these things going on? I've always heard like smack talk towards Diamond Dallas Page at this time. Whenever there was a very early time in his career, harking back to Diamond,
early 90s.
Yeah, where he would come out to the ring with like he'd have rings on every finger. He was smoking 2, not 1, 2 cigars. Yeah, he'd have 2 cigars. He'd have a
toothpick in his mouth and a cigar.
He'd have like a toothpick, and he had sunglasses on, and he had a fur coat, and he had a suit on, and he had chains. He had like all these different things going on.
10 chicks on his arms.
I loved it. I loved it. I've heard so much smack towards that, and it deserves it. But like, I take from that, and I'm like, okay, so sometimes I'll wear like, those like scientist goggles. Yeah. I'll put those on my head, but I'm also wearing sunglasses. It's just like...
Makes absolutely no sense.
Right.
Exactly.
But you're not going to forget it.
Exactly.
Right.
That's why I do it, because it's just like, that's stupid.
That's the point.
For sure.
That's the point.
I wanted to bring the conversation back to this too. It sounds like you're marrying a lot of the tradition, but also trying to set a new course.
Absolutely.
We talked about NWA being another kind of one of those, and it was kind of just on the spot in jest in some respects. But what was the final destination when you started out on this path? The original thought that you had, like where am I going to take this character? Where do I want to go? What's the ultimate goal here? I didn't realize before our discussion today that you had that little bit of a sabbatical.
Yeah, I did.
So starting at 19, what was the
I was 19
end goal there?
Whenever I was 19, it was man. Really, I was always just so focused on just becoming a wrestler like that. The end goal was just get as good as I can,
right? And
I will do with it what I can. Like what'll happen will happen with it.
Right?
Is that the feelings today though?
Yeah, still kind of. Yeah.
Yeah,
it's just like, dude, I just like I'm in this for myself, and I'm here to please myself. Okay. I want to make myself happy, and I want to make. And by doing that, I make other people happy. So I would love to have a bigger platform. Like the end, I would say if I had an absolute end with it, it would be that I have gotten to wrestle for some pretty cool places. I got to do some pretty cool things. Like it would be so cool. Yeah, NWA in St. Louis. It'd be cool to wrestle for AEW a couple of times.
Sure.
It'd be really cool to maybe you work for them for a minute or something, or go to Japan.
Yeah.
I'd love to wrestle in Japan. That would mean a lot to me. I would love to do that.
Hell, I ain't got to wrestle in Japan. I just like to go hang out in Japan.
Yeah.
But that'd be a nice little
go to Japan and do that. Man, I would love to.
That's kind of a me and my kids thing. Is we've promised to each other that one day we'll all go to Tokyo together.
Sure. So. How fun that would be.
Yeah.
How fun.
Absolutely.
That would be a dream. That's an end goal. One of the big things I want to do, the end of it, is I want to have enough land to where I have my a barn where I can have a ring in there, and I'm training the youth.
Yeah, that'd be
cool. I want to pass this down. I want it to be something where you really it's not about the money. I know so many guys, they're just so much about the money. And money's great, guys.
Right.
You got to have money in this life, but greed is different.
Right.
Yeah, no, I agree with that for sure.
And I want to be to where I can just have youthful guys and girls come in who are hungry, and I'm this older guy who has this knowledge, and I can be like, come here,
pay it forward,
train in my ring, learn, bump, I will help you.
Right.
I'll come to your shows.
Yeah. Help develop you, right?
And I'll help develop you. You can become something.
So you're hitting on something that we've hit on with a couple different other guests that we've had on the show, actually. So we've had mostly musicians on the show. That's kind of my background, if you will.
I play many instruments. I'd love to talk about that.
Well.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But, like some of the things that we've hit on, though, with them is that, there's plenty out there in the world for everybody to get theirs. There's no reason to be cutthroat, ugly, nasty, burn bridges.
Spot.
Yeah,
you're taking my spot.
There's plenty of spots out there. There's more places to work than ever right now, even domestically.
Yes.
Honestly, to tell the truth, even though that some promotions have recently ended, regardless of that, there's plenty of places to work, whether it's the indie circuit, it's televised events, whatever the case is. And then another thing that we've talked about with other musicians is paying it forward, and that is investing in the future too. Just because you're trying to still find yourself, or perhaps you have, and you're working on that and working on your craft and trying to hone your craft, doesn't mean that you can't invest or encourage the future as well. So I'd like to hear that that's a part of what your dreams are in the future as well.
That would be such a nice thing. Have the experience that would justify me being able to have what I'm doing.
Yeah,
I just the time put in, the matches put in, the places and stuff like that, just to be able to be like, man, I can help you, and that's it. That would be the end. So in that answer, there's many things like that would have to be accomplished, but that's a part of it. Like that the end goal is to be able to help people, and that's that's what I want to do with my life these days. Like I'm gonna go to school here in August to become a massage therapist and heal people and help people. Right. And that's a good thing for wrestling too, because it's just like,
dude, work that totally into this.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. What a wonderful way that's going to be able to help me be able to get into places like, there's no way I could literally drop everything I'm doing right now and I could train every day. I'm never going to be The Rock. I'll never be half of these guys, I'll never be half as good as any of them.
Not with that fucking attitude.
That's fine. Like, I'm going to train and I'm going to do good, but like, it's fine. Like, I would love to be able to go in there and these guys that like a Brian Danielson.
Oh, yeah.
That's a once in a lifetime guy. If I can go in there and I can be like, hey, I'm going to make sure that your muscles, one, are not going to tear tonight, and you're going to be relaxed, and you're going to be, all the knots are taken out, and you're going to feel good. That way you can go out there and you can provide these people something that is far beyond anything that I could ever give them. If I could be a part of that, there's almost more pleasure in that than doing it.
I agree.
To be able to be like, man, it's like being on a football team, and you weren't the quarterback who made that touchdown pass. You did not get that pass, but you know what you did? You blocked the guy that was about to smoke him, and you blocked it. And if it wasn't for you, that wouldn't have happened. There's a pleasure in those assists that are just incredible. And I love that.
Teamwork makes the dream work.
Yes,
baby.
I'm a big guy on teamwork. We work as a team for a reason. We got to this point in our evolution for a reason.
Amen
because
to that.
we work together.
Yeah.
Work together, and things can happen on a level that is untold. It's incredible.
I agree. And you got to have that synergy in the business today if you want to be successful.
Yes.
Tell the people where they can find you in the future, sir.
Egon Casanova on Facebook. Also, go ahead while you're there. Go to String Bean's page. Drop him a like. Make sure you do that. I'm also on Twitter. It's more of a personal thing for me, but you can find me on there. That's going to be under Derek Hankins, and that's any type of a platform. You can find me on anything as Derek Hankins. That's going to be me, Derek. But for Egon and strictly Egon, that's going to be on Facebook. You can also find us on YouTube. We've got stuff on there. We've got matches. If you want to watch some matches and stuff, String Bean. You're going to have to put in like String Bean a little bit more than that, because the country music legend, might I add, is going to come up first, which I love String Bean.
Right.
He's great. But you make sure you put in like String Bean, maybe SNPW, or like String Bean versus. Do something like that, like String Bean versus, and matches will come up. We had a great feud with DD Jinx. He lost the Loser Leaves Town match. That was great. Okay. We had a great feud with him. We just got done with a feud with Big Vic. That was a great feud. Okay. Love working with him. I got a lot of respect for both of those guys, for real. Good friends, very good friends. And if you're a wrestling fan, especially if you're a wrestling fan of the indies, check us out. SNPW, Strictly Insane Pro Wrestling. That's the place I work the most. It's my home. It's the very first place I ever worked.
Very good.
My very first match was a championship match for their title.
Holy
my goodness. Yeah, that's a hell of an opportunity coming out the gate for
Heavens, sure. No. All he did, I threw one punch, and God, it was, and I mean it was shit.
Yeah.
That punch was horrible, and I threw it. Oh,
you need to watch a Jerry Lawler tape, son.
And he just hit his finish. I think all he did was hit his finish on me after that, but that was my first match.
That's awesome.
That's a hell of an opportunity.
It was cool, man. So I got love for SNPW. SNPW is also on Facebook. Strictly Insane Pro Wrestling. Go give them a like. NOCW, go drop a like on them. The Burklows, go drop a like on their wrestling show too. We work there. They run, I think it's 4 times a year. They only run like once a year. It's kind of irregular, but we always work it. So drop a like on that. Too Tough Tony's promotion. Too Tough Tony's a great friend of mine, JCW wrestling legend.
Okay.
And he's a good friend. He's got a promotion. The initials are slipping my mind, but definitely go Too Tough Tony. See what he's doing these days. Drop a like on his stuff too, because for real, he's a legend, and I got a lot of respect for him, and he has helped me a lot. and it's been cool earning respect from him. So, but make sure you check him out too.
And we'll make sure to continue to share anything that you got coming up too.
Oh, dude,
we're going to hit you up on our social media blast. It was a pleasure talking to you today. We're going to take a brief intermission, and Josh and I are going to come back to close the show out. Thank you for coming on.
Yeah, man.
Dr. Egon Casanova.
Yeah.
Doctor, absolutely.
There we
got
go.
it right this time.
It's been an absolute pleasure, boys. Nothing but love for the ATI podcast. Definitely good friends. I'd love to be back on.
Absolutely.
You guys got to get String Bean. He's gonna be.
Maybe we can orchestrate both of you guys coming on.
You get his side of the story, and then we get our story. That's what it's all about.
That's what
it's all about. Yes, nothing but love. ATI podcast for life. Drop a like if you haven't already.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, absolutely. There's nothing but love for this, because guys, what we're doing here is passion.
Oh yeah,
for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
Absolutely.
This is passion right here.
Yep.
Nothing but love for pro wrestling. Nothing but love for ATI podcast.
Thank you.
And it's been a pleasure, gentlemen.
Yeah.
And we've got to get off to this prostate exam with Josh. Yes. I mean, it's killing him. He's clamming in at the bit. So Dr. Egon's going to work his magic juices. We'll catch you guys on the other side of the break, right? Folks, welcome back to the show. Thank you for sticking around. We're happy to have had Mr. Derek Egon Casanova with us.
Yeah, that was awesome, dude.
And we really appreciate the time that he took and everything he had to share with us about his experiences. Very interesting to hear about what he's got going on, what he has works in the future. We're going to be sharing some of that stuff on the social media feeds of our pages. Of course, we're going to have things in there such as videos and samples of their matches. We just want to talk about what we have going on next week as well. Next week, we're going to have Mr. Doug Wicker on the show, local filmmaker. We're going to talk to Doug about what he has in store in particular. He's going to be on here to promote the short film that he has in the Chattanooga Film Festival. It is virtual this year, so you can buy a virtual pass.
Oh, sweet. That's so cool they're doing that, man.
Yeah. And you're going to see What Happened to the Others is the short film submission that they have on that. But Doug's got quite the history. He's been doing, filmmaking or some variation thereof for over 10 years now. He kind of started and, like kind of doing commercials and commercial competition type stuff. So I know he did some submissions for like Dirt Cheap. And then I know he did a submission for the ABCs of Death movie. M is for Microwave. He's also done some music videos for some local artists. He's done some short films. And actually a big thing that I want to talk to him about as well is Bang the Drum, The Life and Death of a Small Town Music Scene. That is the Farmington music scene documentary that he did for his thesis for college to receive his degree at Lindenwood University. I know that Doug now works on many major marketing campaigns and has worked some more historical ones, footwear, things of that ilk. So you've probably actually seen some of Doug's work and you just don't realize it, but he has his own film production company, if you will. It's called Search Party Pictures. So we're going to talk to Doug and everything he's got going on. So we'll make sure that we do Mr. Doug justice next week. I also wanted to talk about some recent events to kind of close out the show today. So we discussed the AEW experience, that happened last night as we're recording this. So this is Thursday. So it was June 15th. And luckily, my son had the opportunity to meet one of his heroes, Darby Allin.
Yeah, man, so cool. He looks so excited, man.
I took him to Royal Rumble. That was the first wrestling match he ever been to, WWE this year. We talked about it on the show previously. He had the time of his life, and that is one of the greatest experiences I've ever, had in my entire life.
As
probably
a dad,
will.
Absolutely, dude.
Yeah, I'll remember that forever.
Right.
And, it's something that I'll never forget, that I'll never take lightly. And I wanted my wife to have that same experience. So, we have a new baby, so there's some difficulty with like childcare and things of that ilk. So, I agreed to, hey, I took him last time, you take him this time, you get to experience it firsthand yourself. And she called me in tears with joy last night. And at first I thought something was wrong, so I was like freaking out,
honey.
Yeah, and she was crying because he met Darby.
Yeah, that's so cool, man.
And that was amazing. So not that he'll ever hear this, but thank you, Darby Allen, for making my son's dreams come
Hell
true.
yeah.
And that's something that he'll never forget, even you talking to him for 3 minutes or however long it was. We, as a Lewis family, really appreciate it. So that's that's one cool thing. Another cool thing for me personally that happened on last Saturday night, I got to see a band that I have a unique relationship story with in my life, and that's Failure. So Failure kind of started out in the early 90s. Many people might remember them, might know who they are currently. They're kind of a band who started to blow up. They were on Warner Brothers Records. They got a lot of popularity with a single in particular on their album Fantastic Planet that was called Stuck on You. Well, us being from where we're from, and kind of the big thing for us to do as kids was to go to Six Flags in particular. Six Flags is owned by Warner Brothers. So about 1997, I went with a childhood friend, Andrew Reed, went out to, I guess we got tickets or something for Six Flags. We went up to Six Flags, and we were waiting in line for the bumper cars, and we hear this song on the radio, or excuse me, they actually had TVs with music videos, and they would pump their artists up there. I don't know, you remember this?
Oh, yeah. Like when you'd be waiting in queue lines and stuff,
Yep.
the little TVs would have, yeah.
So that's exactly what this was. They had little, lines, and as you're waiting for rides, they had TVs, box TVs up, old school ones, suspended from the ceiling. Stuck on You music video was on. And what I perceived is kind of an allusion to like the Austin Powers opening title sequences and stuff like that. But really that was an homage, a ripoff, a parody of James Bond.
Yeah.
And turns out their video in particular was more of a Roger Moore James Bond kind of a ripoff. So it got a little bit deeper than that. But my knowledge of all that sort of stuff at 10 was limited.
Right.
And the first Austin Powers just came out, and it was huge. So I just saw it as Austin Powers type stuff. And I knew Austin Powers was a spoof on James Bond, but neither here nor there.
Right.
I thought he was saying "suck on you" till the end of time, and he was like a leech.
Yeah.
I didn't think of it in a fellatio way because I was 10.
Right.
And not to say that I didn't know what that was, but at the same time, that wasn't my first thought.
You weren't thinking.
I'm not totally desensitized and fucked up in the head like I am now.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Anyways.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. You haven't got there yet.
But anywho, so I ended up going on the search because I also should have been wearing glasses, didn't have glasses, so I couldn't see what the artist name was on the TV when they would post that up. So I actually went back and started looking at Walmart and going through all the music section. And at Walmart, I came across a CD for Eve 6 that had a song called Leech. And I said, okay, this is that band I've been looking for. And this is back before you could preview all the songs and everything.
Right.
Too, on the CDs.
So you just had to buy the album, hoping it was the right album.
And I bought it, and it was not.
It was an Eve 6 album.
It was an Eve 6 album. I did end up liking Eve 6. I was 10, and, that was one of those bands I found on my own.
Yeah.
They had their day in the sun, if you will.
You wouldn't believe the bands I liked when I was 6 or 10. So we're not even going to talk about it.
But weirdly enough, Ridge Jackson's been on the show several times, been in bands with him. We're good friends, been good friends for a long time, share music back and forth, that sort of thing. That's kind of one of the things we've always bonded over, had very similar interests. He tells me, you got to check out this band. You might know already who they are. They used to be a band in the 90s, and I know you like 90s stuff, like a lot of the stuff that came out of grunge era type stuff.
Right.
And not to say that these guys are grunge, but you might like them,
Right.
And I like bands like Hum and things like that. So I was like in Helmet, and I was like, okay, let's give this a dabble. One of the first fucking songs I heard was, I forgot to preface this by him saying they broke up and they just got back together in this is 2015.
Right.
And I said, okay, I'm gonna have to check this out. And so I heard a few new things. I'm like, oh, this is really good. And then I started exploring their catalog deeper because I had gotten a Spotify premium account about the time. And I was like, holy shit, this is that band that I came across, Stuck on You. And I'm like, this is that song. And the first impressions I got of the song, outside of me thinking the lyrics were Stuck on You and the video montage and illusions that were going on in the background, was that, these guys have a unique, powerful sonic almost droney sound,
Right.
but very spacey still, like a lot of, and they're a 3-piece, so it's just like crazy how full they sound.
Yeah.
Like even
yeah.
at 10, like I was recognizing there's only 3 guys in this band and they're doing all of this.
Right.
And, it really impressive. And that stuck with me for years, and never knew, figured out who it was until like 2015ish, which is wild. And so then that kind of restarted a fandom. But that was about a year or so after my dad had passed as well. And I've kind of talked to Enlight about some of that as well in the past too. And with my dad passing, I was like really keeping an ear to the ground about people going through rehabilitation programs and kind of one of the success story type stuff, because I had my own family now, and I was really trying to put myself on a positive mental attitude, positive track of mind, kind of look for the glass is half full stuff more so in life than the glass is half empty. After kind of reading extensively their bio, I realized, okay, there's a reason that this band dropped off right after I heard them, because they essentially weren't a band anymore. This was like the last full-length studio album that they did from start to finish on purpose. They had another release in 2004, but it was like something to the effect of like, unreleased rarities and that sort of stuff. So things that they were working on, demos, that sort of stuff.
Like hidden gem stuff.
Right. So this album that they put back out, this new album, it was a little different, but production's changed, all that stuff. But anywho, I got back to reading like why they fell out. Terrible heroin addictions, so
that'll do it.
Opioids, that sort of stuff. Knowing my history and what's happened to my family, it was something that I could relate to. But it was a comeback story. It was a story of success. These guys overcame their trials, their tribulations, their inner demons, their infighting. Heroin is considered one of the most difficult and addictive drugs that there is, period.
Yeah, and deadly.
And of course deadly. It's not uncommon for folks to OD on it in particular. To hear that these guys pulled out, they kicked out, to go back to a wrestling term, and are doing it again today was just like hugely inspirational to me. So like I just feel like I got a lot invested in this band. So last Saturday night they played Pops. I got to see them.
Yeah.
And it was one of the first live shows I'd been to. Like I'd been to some local shows, but as far as like live full-on productions with a band, I think it was my first live show since the pandemic.
Yeah.
And it's really hard for me to think of that.
I haven't been since before the pandemic.
Other than I've been to a couple enemy airship shows.
Yeah.
But other than that, that was my first live show. And it was unique. They did a 30-minute documentary, a 30-minute clip of their documentary that's coming out next year. And they had a lot of credible folks in. They had the lead singer from Silver Sun Pickups. They had the drummer from Garbage, who was also a music producer and records a lot of bands. They had Haley Williams from Paramore was in it. I think Margaret Cho, the comedian, Maynard from Tool, the lead singer.
So some pretty big names,
yeah. And I know I'm forgetting some folks, but I think that's enough to, if you heard something that interests you, you're definitely going that direction. So, but it was unique that they had no opener. They did 30 minutes of the documentary, and then they played their set. And I have not been that satisfied by a set from a band in a long, long time. And
right.
Essentially the format was first half new songs. They may have mixed in one older song into that first part of the set. Then they played what they became famous for was like segues they had on their album. Fantastic Planet in particular, they sound like movie segues, if you will, was kind of the inspiration. Then they came back in the second half of the set and just like hit straight on old shit. But like couple of the hits, but then like some B-side tracks. And I never, again, you go and you see bands that have been bands for 20, 30 years, and the things that they play over time, how the sound changes, and that these guys, consistency, like it didn't sound like different albums. If you weren't a fan, you wouldn't have known the difference, quite frankly.
Right.
It was very rewarding in that way as well. And I'm a big on sound, loudness, that sort of stuff. The drummer had a unique setup. The lead singer, Ken, he actually, they changed between basses and guitars, him and the other musician in the band,
cool.
and keyboards and stuff. So like that, again, unbeknownst to me, I mean, I'd seen it in videos and stuff, but to really see it in action, how much they did it, like almost every song, there was some type of change up instrumentally, like either a different guitar, a different, from guitar to keyboard, or from guitar to bass, or two basses. I mean, like there was a lot of stuff going on with instrumentation changes, and that kind of reminded me of bands that I had been in the past. That's some of the things that we did. So, there's just like a lot of ties to the band knowingly or unknowingly, that makes me really enjoy them. And then lastly, I have to mention this. Whenever a band's sound waves moves you physically,
right,
I could feel my leg hairs parting like separation.
right.
When I was standing there watching them. And that's just that sensation I had longed for and missed for so long. I hadn't felt that in a long time.
Right.
To me, you know, a good show like that is almost a religious experience. Matter of fact, it's far more rewarding than any religious experience I've ever had. So we'll put that on record. I don't know if that's saying a lot, but you know, it's just stuck with me. It's been a week now, and it's just so vivid in my mind. Like, it's one of those memories I'm never going to forget. Top 3, like, it's hard to beat Sigur Rós at the Fox or wherever I saw him, the theater there up in St. Louis.
Yeah, it should be the Fantastic Fox.
You know, yeah, that was incredible. That's an experience in and of itself, playing with the St. Louis Symphony Orchestra on parts and stuff in the orchestra pit area. The lighting treatments that they had, you know, they just do it all out. But Failure was pretty on par. They had a projector, they had imagery, even when they played Stuck on You, they played that Bond opening title credit sequence at the beginning. And it was amazing to see, you know, and it just, a lot of nostalgia, but in the now too. So can't talk enough about that awesome experience, and hopefully we can bring more of those awesome experiences as things moving up, things get back to normal.
Yeah, I got to get to a show soon, man. I haven't been to one, like I said, since before the pandemic, so I need it. I need it in my blood.
Yeah, and I got an itch now. I got to go see other shows. I'm supposed to see Boris and Nothing, which I'm really looking forward to. Speaking of which, we got a show to promote July 2nd at the Sinkhole. We've mentioned it before on the show, but Fister and Bastards are going to be playing. So
hell yeah.
Fister includes Marcus, who we've had on the show, Marcus Newstead. And Marcus does vocals and guitar in Fister. And then we've got Jason from our Storm Ruler episode, back in the annals of the show now. Jason Asbury is in a new band, newer for him, that is. Bastard's been around for a little while. But he's in Bastard, plays drums, and they are going to be playing with Fister at the Sinkhole on July 2nd. And we're going to be sharing that show flyer on our social media pages.
Go check that shit out.
I believe tickets are $10 in advance, $12 day of show.
Can't beat that.
Sinkhole is a small, limited venue by comparison to some others, so getting tickets in advance is probably behoove you. And if you wait till day of show, it's possible that you won't get in. So I want to encourage you to get tickets, and even with the service fee, it's less than at the door. Check it out. Fister, Bastard, St. Louis at the Sinkhole, 4th of July weekend on the 2nd, which I believe is that Saturday, if I remember correctly.
I'm not sure.
But
I'd have to look
check
at the
them
calendar. Yeah, go support local music, guys. Don't let it die.
So for this week, I am Barry Nsane on Instagram and Twitter.
And I am at Joshua Welch on Instagram, or the OGW on Twitter.
And for this week, we're out of time.
All right, man. Yeah. All right, guys. Have a good week. Stay safe out there. Thanks so much for tuning in.
Good night and good luck.
Hey, this is Josh from ATI Podcast. For show updates and news about the podcast, follow us on social media. You can follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/ATI Podcast 22, on Twitter at podcast_ATI, on Instagram at the ATI Podcast, on TikTok at ATI Podcast. DMs are always welcome. Have a question for the show? You can always email us at atipodcastquestions@gmail.com. Stay safe out there.